My roommate was forcibly kissed by a drunk man and cried out, begging him to stop. I rushed over to help her, but the drunkard grabbed me by the throat and yelled at me to mind my own business. I had no choice but to throw a punch in self-defense. The drunkard suddenly suffered a cerebral hernia and collapsed, unconscious, but later, when giving her statement, my roommate actually accused me of intentional assault, claiming she had just been playfully flirting with her boyfriend. It turned out the drunkard was the crown prince of the capital's elite circle. He pointed me out, ensuring she could become a wealthy socialite the moment she graduated. The young master ordered his men to scald me to death with boiling water in prison. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day my roommate was forcibly kissed. No, someone help me. A sharp cry jolted me back to my senses, and I stared ahead in disbelief. Lynn Nana was desperately pushing against a drunkard. But with her slender arms and legs, she was no match for the man's strength. In no time, she was pulled roughly into his embrace, his foul, liquor-soaked mouth moving in to kiss her. At that moment, her gaze unexpectedly met mine. She immediately reached out to me desperately, as if grasping at a lifeline. Hizeo, save me. The scene felt all too familiar. I instantly realized I had been reborn. And on the very day Lynn Nana was being harassed by a drunkard, in my previous life. Upon hearing Lynn Nana's cry for help, I had instinctively rushed over and pushed the drunkard away with all my strength. Enraged and humiliated, the drunkard slapped me hard across the face, then clamped his hands around my neck, warning me to mind my own business. Seeing the drunkard's attention was fully on me, Lynn Nana quickly straightened her clothes and slipped away unnoticed, choked and gasping for air. The terror of impending death unleashed a surge of adrenaline. I swung my fist with all my might, connecting squarely with the drunkard's head. To my surprise, he crumpled to the ground on the spot, knocked out cold. Afterwards, the police took us away for questioning. After hearing the testimonies from the bystanders, it was clear that I acted in self-defense. However, Lynn Nana immediately accused me of intentional assault. She sobbed. I was just arguing with my boyfriend. I don't know why she suddenly rushed over and punched him. That's how she was in school, constantly hating on men and showing violent tendencies. An investigation revealed that I did indeed get into 2 fights with boys at school, but one of those boys was abusing cats, and the other was secretly installing cameras in the girls' bathroom. I didn't actually hit them, I just grabbed them by the collar and dragged them to the counselor to report them. Lynn Nana knew the whole truth. Yet now it's become evidence used against me. Not only that, she even slandered me, calling me a lesbian. She even peeked at me while I was showering. I think she likes me. That's why she deliberately hurt my boyfriend. I was convicted of involuntary manslaughter and sentenced to 3 years in prison. It wasn't until I was in prison, having my skin scalded inch by inch with boiling water by those female inmates, that I finally learned the truth. The man who forcibly kissed Lynn Nana that day was none other than the crown prince of the capital's elite circle. All Lynn Nana had to do was point the finger at me, get me successfully imprisoned, and after graduation, she could marry into the Gu family. Even though Gu Ting is now partially paralyzed, his family's wealth could secure Lynn Nana the most luxurious life as a wealthy socialite. At that thought, I lowered my head and let out a cold, bitter laugh. So you're that eager to marry a cripple? Ha, well, I'll be sure to give you a helping hand, too. I watched as Lynn Nana's collar was torn open. Panic-stricken, she kept screaming my name. Hizeo, you know Taekwondo, don't you? Please, save me. A bystander chimed in urgently. Your classmate is in that state, and you're not going to help. I shot him a cold glance. You, a grown man, haven't lifted a finger, and you expect me, a young woman, to step in. He pursed his lips in dissatisfaction. Didn't she say you've studied Taekwondo? You'd believe anything anyone says. If someone told you crap was delicious, would you eat it? A snicker came from the crowd, and the self-righteous man finally backed down, seething with resentment. At that moment, Lynn Nana finally realized I wasn't going to save her. Her eyes widened in disbelief as she cried out, Hizeo, aren't you supposed to be the most kind-hearted person? How could you do this to me? It's true. My parents taught me from a young age to be kind to others, to stand up against injustice and lend a helping hand. It's precisely when kind-hearted people get their spirits crushed that more and more in this world choose to play it safe, becoming mere bystanders. I shrank back, feigning fear. Nana, it's not that I won't help you. That guy is so drunk. I'm scared too. I paced anxiously on the spot for a moment before finally coming up with a plan. Nana, hold on, I'll go get Lin Xing to help you. At the mention of Lin Xing's name, Lynn Nana was thrown into a complete panic. She waved at me, about to shout don't go, but Gu Ting covered her mouth. Muffled cries reached my ears as I ran without looking back. Lynn Nana was the adopted daughter of the Lin family, and Lin Xing was her brother in name only. But one night, I accidentally ran into Lin Xing and Lynn Nana working out together in the school gym. Lynn Nana begged me through tears not to tell anyone, saying they were truly in love. My heart softened, and I agreed. Yet when Lin Nana pointed the finger at me, I also pleaded with her in tears not to lie. She had always loved lynching. Lynching sternly warned me not to slander them, insisting there was no way they would ever do something so contrary to public decency. What a truly noble love. Even if she were to leave him for another, as long as she was happy, he would accept it willingly. Make sure to keep loving wholeheartedly for the rest of this life. Free, unlike Lin Nana's bright and bubbly public persona. Lynching was deeply gloomy and had a notorious reputation as the school's weirdo. Rumor had it that it was precisely because of his psychological issues that the Lin family decided to adopt another child to keep him company, which is how they brought Lin Nana home. So, after bringing Lynching to the school gate, I didn't even need to say a word. He was already storming forward in a rage, landing a solid punch right on Guting's head. The next second, Guting hit the ground just as he had in his previous life, but Lynching wasn't satisfied yet. He kicked Guting twice more in the face. Lin Nana didn't try to stop him from beating Guting. She just clutched her clothes tighter, sobbing pitifully. It wasn't until someone in the crowd cried out, "I think he's been beaten to death," that the situation changed. Only then did Lin Nana, in a panic, grab Lynching's arm to stop him from going any further. No way. Just then, a police car, siren blaring, pulled over to the side of the road. Lynching panicked immediately. He looked around frantically and tried to grab Lin Nana's hand to run, but the crowd of onlookers surrounding them blocked their escape. You can't just run away after killing someone. Hearing this, Lin Nana immediately and discreetly pulled her hand free from Lynching's grasp, even subtly taking a couple of steps away from him. Lynching, however, was still in the crowd, desperately trying to justify himself. "He just harassed my sister. Didn't you see? It was self-defense." The crowd fell silent for a moment, watching the police drawing nearer and the assistant of Mrs. Gu running ahead of them. I pretended to be curious and asked Lin Nana, "Nana, isn't this guy your boyfriend?" For the assistant clearly knew exactly what kind of person Guting was. After I gave him an out, he immediately seized the opportunity. Peering over to assess Guting's situation, he grabbed Lin Nana's hand and said, "You must be the new girlfriend of our Gu group's young master, right? He said he had a date with you today. What on earth happened here?" Lin Nana's violently struggling hand suddenly stilled. She stared blankly and asked in disbelief, "He's the eldest son of the Gu group." At that very moment, Lynching, seeing the situation turn against him and trying to flee, was swarmed by police officers and pinned to the ground. He desperately reached out toward Lin Nana. "Nana, quick, explain to them. I was helping you." It was a heroic act. Lin Nana glanced in his direction, a flicker of hesitation crossing her face. I feigned surprise and said, "The Gu Group? You mean the one that owns hundreds of five-star hotel chains worldwide? They must be unbelievably wealthy." As I was marveling, Lin Nana slowly turned her head away, avoiding Lynching's gaze. Enough arguing. Everyone, come with us to the station. We'll sort this out there. 5. I sat with a few other onlookers while the police questioned Lin Nana, the person at the center of it all, trying to get to the bottom of what had happened. She just kept looking from Lynching to Assistant Jiang, weeping and refusing to say a single word. The police were at a loss, so they could only ask Lynching why he had resorted to violence. Lynching protested his innocence loudly. "I'm Nana's brother. I heard from her roommate that she was being harassed at the school gate, so I rushed over to help her. I was acting bravely for a just cause and in self-defense." As he spoke, he glanced somewhat guiltily at Assistant Jiang, who knew he was so fragile. I only gave him a light tap. Just as Assistant Jiang was about to start cursing, the police officer raised a hand to stop him. He had found the crucial point. Someone had called Lynching there. "Is Lin Nana's roommate here?" I quickly stood up and said I was. Lynching immediately looked at me. "That's right. Zhao saw everything. She's the one to ask for the full story." Assistant Jiang shot me a sinister glance, his eyes filled with nothing but menace. I pretended to be frightened, shrinking back slightly, and began to recount, half-truth, half-fiction, everything I had seen to the police. I had just finished my experiment and was heading out for dinner when I happened to see a crowd gathered at the school gate. I moved closer for a look and realized it was Lin Nana. It was too dark to see who was with her, but there was a strong smell of alcohol. It seemed like she was drunk. When Lin Nana saw me, she begged me to help her, but I'm just a woman, not strong enough to rush in recklessly, so I went to get her brother instead. I pointed toward the crowd of onlookers. "They can all vouch for me." The people nodded repeatedly. "It's exactly as this young lady said." Someone even pointed at Lynching and said, "Then this kid showed up, punched the drunk right in the head, and the guy just dropped to the ground." Another person added, "We all tried to stop him, told him the guy was down and he shouldn't hit him anymore, but he went ahead and threw 2 more punches." Hearing this, Lynching flew into a rage and started yelling, "What the hell are you talking about? If you saw your own family member being harassed, wouldn't you rush in to help?" Hearing this, I pretended to be hesitant and troubled, pacing back and forth uneasily. The officer immediately picked up on it and questioned me sternly, "Is there something else you haven't told us?" I took a frightened step back. Assistant Zhang's eyes darted around, and he quickly said, You know our Yen master is Lin Nana's boyfriend, don't you? The officer also remembered, right? You were the one just now asking Lin Nana if this man was her boyfriend. Tell us the truth now, and don't hold up our investigation. I was terrified. I glanced at the menacing Lin Xing, then at Lin Nana, whose eyes were glazed over as if lost in thought. I whispered. It was too dark at first. I couldn't see a thing. But when I got closer, I realized I saw a man with Nana a few days ago. He looked a bit like him. You're lying. Lin Xing shot up from his seat and tried to lunge at me, but the police officer pinned him down on the table. Nana, say something. Tell him you're not his girlfriend. Tell him you don't even know him. At that very moment, a lavishly dressed woman stormed into the door, followed by 4 burly men, their faces full of menace. Who did it? Who hit my son? 6. Didnt has never appeared on television, so none of us knew what he looked like. But this Mrs. Gu is a regular face on TV and in the news. The moment Lin Nana saw her, her pupils dilated sharply and her hands clenched into fists. Mrs. Gu carries herself with the composure of the wealthy. You couldn't tell what she was really thinking just by looking at her face, yet the look she gave Lin Xing was still too revealing, overflowing with emotion and betraying the hatred in her heart. Young man, I don't know why you attacked my son for no reason, but because of you. He's now in the hospital undergoing emergency brain surgery. The doctors say his chances of survival are less than 10%. If anything happens to him, I swear on the entire Gu group, I will see you until there's nothing left. Lin Xing collapsed to the floor in terror, his face deathly pale. When Lin Nana heard that Didnt might not make it, her eyes grew increasingly evasive. Just then, Assistant Jian seemed to read her mind and proactively introduced her to Mrs. Gu, saying, "This is Miss Lin. The Yen master's girlfriend." She had a little tiff with the Yen master at the school gate, and her brother, without asking for any explanation, just went ahead and hit him. Mrs. Gu frowned slightly but quickly composed herself. She reached out and took Lin Nana's hand, saying, "Didnt has mentioned you to me several times. You really are as pretty and lovely as he said." Lin Nana blushed and lowered her head. I'm not as wonderful as you say, madam." Mrs. Gu gently patted Lin Nana's hand. How could the girl our Didnt likes be anything less than perfect? Shaolin, did you tell the police that you and our Didnt were just having a lover's quarrel? I know he's your brother, but Didnt is your beloved, isn't he? He told me he was going to propose to you soon. I was over the moon. But I never imagined something like this would happen." As she spoke, Mrs. Gu wiped away her tears. Lin Nana immediately became flustered. I didn't want this either." Mrs. Gu continued to hold her hand. "If he recovers, I promise I'll arrange your wedding right away so you can be together forever. How does that sound?" With that, she slipped the obviously valuable emerald bracelet right off her own wrist and onto Lin Nana's. Lin Nana's eyes lit up as she stared at the bracelet, struggling for a long moment to suppress the smile tugging at her lips. I did have a little disagreement with Didnt. My brother misunderstood the situation." Having said that, she dared not meet Lin Xing's bloodshot gaze again. Turning her head away, she walked over to stand beside Madame Gu. Madame Gu stepped in front of her and sneered at Lin Xing. "You will pay for this. Just wait until you're behind bars." But Lin Xing seemed utterly lost, as if he hadn't heard a word. He stubbornly reached out towards Lin Nana and demanded, "Nana, why did you lie? Why?" Watching the absurd scene unfold before me, I curled my lips in a scornful smirk. "This is only the beginning. In this lifetime, I will make sure every single one of you gets exactly what you deserve." 7. After leaving the police station, Lin Nana was picked up directly by Mrs. Gu. It's obvious they went to scheme about how to frame Lin Xing, but Lin Xing is nothing like me, a kid who grew up in an orphanage. 8. Early in the morning, the dorm room door was violently kicked open. I groggily opened my eyes, and before I could even process what was happening, I heard the sharp sound of Lin Nana being slapped hard across the face. She stared in panic at the person before her and cried out, "Mom!" I looked closer and confirmed it was indeed Lin Xing's parents, Duan and Lin Jigua, the adoptive parents of Lin Nana. They got here pretty fast. The word mom didn't move Duan in the slightest. Instead, it only fueled her rage. She grabbed Lin Nana by the hair and yanked her off the bed. What followed was a barrage of slaps raining down on her. Lin Nana, her face smeared with dust, tried to shield herself with her hands, only for Lin Jigua to yank them away. "You wretch. Did we adopt you just so you could harm our Xingxing like this? You really have no conscience at all." With that, he delivered 2 more sharp slaps and tore out a large clump of her hair. Lin Nana shrieked in agony, tears and saliva streaming uncontrollably down her face. Mom, please stop. Don't hit me anymore." Besides me and Lin Nana, Liu and Wu Qianwen also lived in this dorm room. The 2 of them were utterly stunned by the terrifying ferocity of Lin Xing's parents, frozen in fear on their beds, not daring to move a muscle. As for me, I watched with keen interest as Lin Nana's face, now swollen like a pig's head, and a faint smile curved at the corner of my lips. The next second, She pinned all the blame on me. It wasn't me, Hizeo told the police. I don't know anything, Mom. Do-won immediately glared around the room. Who is Hizeo? Before Liu and Wu Qianwen could react, Lin Nana was already charging toward my bed. It's her. But when she came up to me, her face was pleading. She lowered her voice and said, Hizeo, please help me. You're the best. Watching her feign weakness and beg me as she always did, I felt not a shred of sympathy left in my heart. All that remained was a searing, bone-deep pain, like scalding hot water slowly burning every inch of my skin. Nana, what are you talking about? As Mr. and Mrs. Lin stormed towards me, I put on an innocent face and said, didn't you go to the police station to get the full story, Uncle and Auntie? I just told the police the truth, that I'd seen a man who looked like Guting with Nana. In the end, it was Nana herself who admitted in front of everyone that Guting was her boyfriend. They were just having a lover's quarrel. It was Lin Xing who flew off the handle and started throwing punches for no reason. Hearing this, Lin Nana immediately protested. That's not what happened. Mom, Dad, let me explain. Du-won sneered, crossing her arms as she looked at her. All right then, let's hear your explanation. Lin Nana was at a loss for words, her lips moving soundlessly several times without uttering a single syllable. Du-won's laughter grew even more menacing. Go on, say it. Why won't you speak? If Guting is your boyfriend, then what is my brother Lin Xing to you? Ha! She lunged forward and kicked Lin Nana in the side. Lin Nana crumpled to the ground in pain, trembling as she tried to crawl away from her. Lin Xing wanted us to dissolve the adoption papers with you a while back, so he could marry you. I was against it, but he forced my hand by starving himself and refusing to go to school. He loves you with his very life, and this is how you repay him. The high heels kicked into Lin Nana's body, one blow after another. The pain was so intense she didn't even have the strength to cry. Mom, I'm sorry. I'll go to the police station right now to explain. It was all my fault. My brother had nothing to do with it. That was exactly the sentence Du-won and Lin Jigua had been waiting for. They immediately grabbed Lin Nana and hurried out, not even caring that she was still in her pajamas. Only then did Liu dare to pat her chest and sigh with relief. That was terrifying, Wu Qianwen asked. Once Nana goes to explain, Lin Xing should be released, right? They launched into a heated discussion, but I knew it couldn't possibly be that simple. Given the Gu family's power, how could they possibly let Lin Nana recant her testimony? Besides, she would never give up this chance to marry into wealth so easily. Lin Xing's parents, just like Lin Xing himself, were about to become sacrificial pawns for the Gu family to vent their anger on. Not that they were innocent, though. In my past life, they were fully aware of the relationship between Lin Xing and Lin Nana. Yet, lured by the Gu family's money, they gave false testimony, claiming Guting and Lin Nana were in a romantic relationship and had even met each other's parents. They completely twisted my act of self-defense into a premeditated assault in this life. It's their turn to taste the bitterness of being slandered. 9. Just as I expected, when the three of us returned to the dorm after class, Lin Nana was packing her bags under the protection of two men in black suits. Seeing us return, she dropped her meek demeanor from the morning, her face now full of smug satisfaction. I was actually thinking that since we're such good sisters, once I marry into the Gu family, I'd naturally bring you all up with me. I can't believe it. You all saw me getting beaten up this morning, and not a single one of you helped me. I really misjudged you all. As she spoke, she pointed at me, especially you, Hizeo. I never thought you could be so cold-hearted and callous. You just wait. I'll make sure you regret crossing the wrong person. Liu and Wu Qianwen were completely taken aback by Lin Nana's outburst. Fortunately, they weren't the greedy type and quickly tried to explain. We don't know the full story of what happened, so we couldn't just jump in and say anything. As for Hizeo, she only said what she knew. Seeing them still trying to explain things on my behalf, a flicker of warmth began to thaw my frozen heart. So, there are still decent people in this world after all. We're supposed to be close friends who share a room. Shouldn't you be on my side? No questions asked. It's too late to try and butter me up now. I've seen your true colors. We're not going to be in the same world anymore. I suggest you all look out for yourselves. The three of us, we simply couldn't be bothered to engage with her anymore and went back to our own bunks to mind our own business. After Lin Nana left, Liu asked us curiously, do you really think she can marry into the Gu family from the top conglomerate? I gave a cold laugh. Don't be so sure about that. 10. The incident happened in broad daylight and involved a chaebol, so it was immediately splashed across the headlines. How to measure an act of bravery is a controversial topic to begin with, and it has always been a hot-button issue, with each new development piling on. This story has been trending for days. The official Gu Group Weibo account also posted about the matter, stating that standard legal procedures are already underway. They also publicly announced that Guting and Lin Nana are in a relationship. Regarding the online accusations, such as Guting harassing women and the Gu Group using its wealth and influence to obstruct justice, they stated they are gathering evidence to file a collective lawsuit. Public opinion immediately swung overwhelmingly in one direction. With everyone calling Lin Xing an idiot, is he into his own sister? What a creep. You're not alone in thinking that. Lin Nana's not his real sister. It's a Fox's thing. The Lin family's home address was also doxed online. Duan and Lin Jigua didn't dare to step outside, because the moment they did, people would pelt them with rotten eggs and vegetables. Their phones remained switched off, inundated daily with a flood of harassing calls and messages, cursing them for raising such a son and saying the whole family deserved to die. I stood downstairs, looking up at their windows, with a group of extremists still waiting nearby. The internet is the perfect tool for stirring up people's baser instincts, if they can use it. So can you. I looked down at the package in my hands. It all comes down to who uses it better. 11. That day, Wu Qianwen rushed back to the dorm, bursting with excitement, and said to us, "There's been another plot twist. Have you all seen it?" Liu shook her head, and Wu Qianwen immediately handed her the phone. Lin Xing's parents posted on Weibo too. They uploaded a video that's completely pixelated. It's of Lin Xing and Lin Nana doing that kind of thing. What? Liu exclaimed. And that's not all. Somehow they got hold of Lin Nana's WeChat account and posted her chat history with Lin Xing. It's so explicit, I couldn't even look at it. Oh my god, that's absolutely scandalous. No wonder I always thought the way Lin Xing looked at Nana was off, but when I warned her, she accused me of making things up. I didn't dare bring it up again after that. Turns out they'd already been hooking up. Before the words had even finished hanging in the air, the door was suddenly flung open. There stood Lin Nana, looking utterly disheveled with her suitcase in tow. We all turned to look at her, and she charged straight at me, her hand already raised to slap me across the face. I grabbed her wrist with all my strength and shoved her backwards, sending her sprawling onto the floor. She immediately burst into tears, her voice thick with hurt. "You promised you wouldn't tell anyone about that. Why would you do this?" I held up my hands in a gesture of innocence. "It's been 2 years. I haven't told a soul. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't play dumb. If it wasn't you, how did my parents get their hands on those videos?" I let out a cold laugh. "Maybe you two did it so often that someone else managed to film it. Lin Nana, the truth will always come out." She covered her ears and screamed, "I won't listen. It's all your fault. You're the reason the Gu family threw me out. What do I do now? The Gu family doesn't want me. My parents don't want me. I'm finished." She collapsed helplessly to the floor, met only by our scornful laughter. Liu said, "You've brought this on yourself." Wu Qianwen said, "I never thought you were this kind of person." I crouched down, leaned close to her ear, and whispered, "What are you causing a scene here for now? Lin Xing hasn't been sentenced yet, and the Gu family still needs you. If I were you, I wouldn't waste another second here. Your real battle is at home, with your family." Lin Nana stared at me blankly for a long moment. Finally, it clicked. She stood up, grabbed her suitcase, and ran off. Wu Qianwen asked, "So she's not coming back to stay?" I said with a laugh, as if she'd ever stooped to living in our dump of a dorm room. Liu grabbed our arms and said, "Good riddance to that troublemaker." Exactly. 12. Guting finally regained consciousness, but just like in his previous life, he was left with hemiplegia. He was the only child in the family, the undisputed heir apparent, but now, all of that is about to fall into the lap of some distant relative. One can only imagine the bitterness festering in Mrs. Gu's heart and the warped resentment growing in Gu Ting's. The very night Lin Nana left, a video was shot under the Gu family's arrangement and posted on their official social media account. In the video, she wept bitterly, pouring her heart out that all of this was forced upon her by Lin Xing and his parents. "I'm just an adopted orphan. How could I possibly dare to resist? My brother said he liked me, and that if I didn't agree, he'd have our parents send me back to the orphanage. But I really don't want to go back. I just wanted to have a parent's love like any ordinary person. What did I do wrong? Guting and I are truly in love. My brother must have found out by accident, which is why he seized on that opportunity to pick a fight and hit Guting that night." Every line and expression was meticulously crafted, making the whole incident seem perfectly plausible. Not to be outdone, Duan and Lin Jigua took to Weibo to directly challenge Lin Nana. Then why is there not a single trace of communication with Guting in any of her messaging apps? Lin Nana just cried and said they had all been deleted. The whole situation has turned into a real Rashomon, with everyone sticking to their own version of the story, yet none can produce solid evidence. After all, what evidence could there possibly be for a lie? Some influencers even came to our school for interviews just to chase clout. Everyone said they'd never seen Lin Nana with Guting and didn't even know she had a boyfriend. She spends every day with her brother. We never saw her with any other guy. She's always insisted she's single. Did you know she had a boyfriend? No, I didn't. That's really strange. This once again put the Gu family at a disadvantage. They needed concrete evidence to prove that Lin Nana and Guting had been in a relationship. Only then could this incident be framed as Lin Xing's crime of passion, a deliberate act of violence born from love turned to hatred. 13. I stared at the check in my hand. The string of zeros represented more money than I could earn in a lifetime. "When the time comes, we can send you to any country you desire, to live a life you never dared to dream of." It is a very tempting offer indeed, Mrs. Goo. Madame Goo gave a scornful laugh, thinking I wouldn't notice. She must think she's seen my type 1,000 times before. But I don't think that's quite enough. What? She slammed the table and demanded, what more do you want? It's just a single statement from you. Don't push your luck. But this is perjury. One wrong move and I could go to jail. Of course I need solid guarantees. I grinned at her and said, what if you guys turn around and deny everything later? Her face stiffened for a moment. It was clear I had hit the nail on the head. Once I give my testimony, if anything comes to light, it's my problem alone. They'll be completely in the clear. So, what do you want? If you can marry Lynn Nana for this, then why can't you marry me? Who would ever marry that loose woman? Madame Goo was hopping mad. With your background, you think you're fit to marry into our family? I shrugged. Then there's nothing more to discuss. Just then. The small door inside the room was pushed open, revealing Goo Ting in his wheelchair, glaring at us with a sinister expression. Agree to her terms. I want Lin Qing dead. Tinger, this is... Goo Ting was beyond listening, his eyes bloodshot as he roared like a madman. Agree to her. I said agree to her. It's not like I can marry anyone worthwhile now anyway. What's wrong with using that to trade for Lin Qing's life? Madame Goo rushed over to comfort him. All right. Don't get so worked up, then let's go get our marriage license. Yen Master Goo. What? No. I smiled gently again. Of course, I told you. I need some security. 14. The day of the trial arrived swiftly. In the courtroom, Lin Nana delivered her testimony with righteous indignation, parroting the words the Goo family's lawyer had coached her to say. Lin Qing, already worn down to a shadow of his former self by the torment of prison, was left utterly dumbstruck upon hearing it. He pounded the table in frustration, shouting at Lin Nana like a madman. Why did you give false testimony, you liar? You're a damn liar. It's all lies. This bitch made it all up. She doesn't even know Goo Ting. I was acting bravely to uphold justice. It was self-defense. The judge ordered him to be quiet, but he simply couldn't calm down. In the end, he had to be escorted out of the courtroom. Seeing this, I was reminded of the utter helplessness I felt on the day of my trial in my past life. I, too, had argued back with the same desperate frenzy, but no one would listen to a word I said. She's a man-hater. How disgusting. We all saw her hit someone, and she still won't admit it. Is she into her roommate or something? A lesbian? No, all that vitriol was directed at Lin Qing, and I was the one left standing on the sidelines. 15. Thanks to my testimony, the Goo family won the lawsuit decisively. Just like in my previous life, Lin Qing was sentenced to 3 years in prison. He was brought back in to hear the final verdict, and by then he had completely collapsed onto the bench, only able to mutter numbly that he was innocent. Duan fainted outright, while Lin Jigua patted her face, his own cheeks streaked with tears. Lin Nana, however, paid them no mind at all. She happily ran behind Goo Ting and pushed others aside to take over pushing the wheelchair herself. She was chattering away about something, but Goo Ting's face was full of impatience. His sinister gaze turned back and fixed on Lin Qing. It seemed Lin Qing's days were numbered, and I turned my gaze to Lin Nana, wondering what fate awaited her. I can't wait to see her face when she finds out Goo Ting and I are officially married. 16. Just as I expected, her eyes went wide with utter disbelief. The moment she laid eyes on that little red marriage certificate, she completely fell apart. I told her, if you don't believe me, you can go back home and ask. She couldn't wait another second and immediately hailed a cab. She must have gone to confront Goo Ting, but Goo Ting is hardly someone who would submit to her questioning. Goo Ting ended up partially paralyzed. Lin Qing was the one who did it, but Lin Nana was the one who started it all. She mistook Goo Ting's current sweet talk and flattery for genuine affection, believing he was truly interested in her. Little did she know, it was all just manipulation. She was also a thorn in Goo Ting's side. Once he dealt with Lin Qing, she would be next. Thinking of this, I realized that Lin Nana's fate in her previous life probably wasn't great either. After all, who in their right mind would marry the person responsible for paralyzing them? That very night, Goo Ting summoned me to the Goo residence. Why did you tell her? I obediently knelt down and rested my head on Goo Ting's lap. It's not like she was of any use anymore, right? Goo Ting idly stroked my hair. You certainly have both ambition and cunning. This is exactly what you need right now. I looked up, meeting his gaze with sincere intensity. Well then, tell me, what's the best way for me to deal with Lin Nana? I smiled, the dimples at the corners of my mouth appearing faintly. Why would you need to lift a finger? Aren't Lin Nana's parents still around? He tapped my nose. Clever girl. But there was no affection in his eyes, after all. He was incapable of that sort of thing now. He saw right through my ambition to climb the ladder and thought he could manipulate me like a puppet. Little did he know, what I wanted was his life and the entire Goo Empire. 17. I sat beside Goo Ting, peeling an apple for him, while the man before him kept his head down, reporting on the torture Lin Qing endured in prison. They pried off all his fingernails and poured salt over the wounds. They also used a spoon to cut his skin, leaving countless lacerations. A satisfied smile spread across Guting's face. A subordinate made a slashing motion across his throat and asked when they could make their move. Guting said casually, "Scald every inch of his skin with boiling water. I want him to suffer to the very core of his being. He must endure utter torment before he is allowed to die." Hearing this, the knife in my hand faltered for a moment, but soon returned to its normal rhythm as I continued peeling. As much as I'd love to plunge this knife straight into the heart of that devil Guting, letting him die like that would be letting him off far too easy. He deserves to suffer every torment imaginable before he dies. 18. Guting deliberately had someone deliver the news of Lin Xing's death to Du-Wan and Lin Jigua. They were even shown the state of his corpse and told that this was specifically requested by Lin Nana. She's been forced by Lin Xing all these years. It's absolutely sickening. Du-Wan was driven into a rage on the spot, and that very night, Lin Jigua stormed into the apartment the Gu family had rented for Lin Nana, armed with a dagger. When the police arrived at the scene, Lin Jigua was stabbing Lin Nana over and over. I heard the whole room was covered in blood, and the body was hacked to a pulp. Wu Qianwen and Liu gossiped to me over the phone. I leaned close to Guting's ear and whispered, "Well, are you satisfied?" Guting gave a sinister smile and stroked my face. "Ever since you came to me, everything seems to be going smoothly again." I wrapped my arms gently around his neck. "I hear second uncle and third uncle are starting to get restless. You have a plan again." "Of course, this is my home. I will protect it." Guting looked at me for a long time, and I met his gaze openly and without flinching. I was completely sincere. So of course he couldn't detect anything amiss. After all, this would be my home from now on, not necessarily his. Alright, from then on, I became Guting's pawn within the Gu Corporation. Step by step, I became involved in its operations, and my authority grew with each passing day. Even Guting's father, Gu Ming, began to place his trust in me. It wasn't until 10 years later, when Gu Ming passed away from a sudden heart attack, that I finally gained complete control of the entire Gu Empire. Not long after, a piece of news exploded across the trending charts. Today, a large truck traveling eastbound on Changxing South Road collided with a sedan. Both occupants of the car, including the driver, were pronounced dead at the scene. Just then, my assistant burst into the office. "Sir, it's terrible. Madam has been in a car accident." The vehicle exploded on the spot, leaving nothing behind. Not even a trace of the bodies. After handling Madame Gu's funeral arrangements, I dismissed all the attendants who had been serving Guting. Over the years, his temper had grown increasingly worse, and he would demand a new set of servants every so often. After this latest outburst of his, I didn't hire anyone new. He was bedridden, so immobile he couldn't even get to the toilet. Hello, where is everyone? Is anybody here?" I walked into the room, covering my nose, and sighed, "You really stink." He flew into a rage as if I'd stepped on his tail, hurling a torrent of abuse and every insult imaginable at me. I remained completely unruffled and calmly informed him, "Now that your precious Gu family is ruined and scattered, what do you think you even are anymore?" A look of sheer terror finally crossed his face. What are you planning to do?" I said with a smile. "Oh, I'm not going to do a thing. I'll just watch you lie there on this bed, completely paralyzed, covered in your own filth, your skin rotting away bit by bit, until you die in utter humiliation and agony. You know, I've waited my whole life for this moment." "What do you mean, Hizeo? I'm the one who gave you all of this. How dare you do this to me?" From a distance, I savored the sight of his crumbling composure, the curve of my smile growing wider and wider. "Because in your past life, you caused the death of an innocent girl, so in this life, she has come for revenge." Story 2. After my mother passed away, my father brought Grandma to live with us. Grandma insisted on cooking with moldy loofahs and decade-old frozen meat from the fridge. To survive, I threw all the food away and patiently explained food safety to Grandma. Yet my father and brother accused me of being an unfilial child. Later, Grandma deliberately got back at me by switching my medication. After I died, my father told the police that Grandma didn't mean any harm. What ill intentions could an old lady possibly have? Given a second chance at life, I've learned to be filial towards Grandma. Loofah soup is great, so of course it should be reserved for the men in the family, just as Grandma insists. Later, Grandma bought Dad a 50 yuan suit, which ended up with him having to give a presentation while wearing pants with a split crotch. Dad was furious, but I said, "What's the big deal? Grandma was just being frugal." Grandma took my brother's nude photos to his tutoring class and started showing them around to set him up on blind dates. My brother was mortified, but I told him he was being ungrateful and that it was just Grandma's way of showing she cared. Eventually they broke down and decided to send Grandma back. Upon learning this, Grandma brought home a woman she found by the roadside. She then forced both the father and younger brother to drink a bucket of aphrodisiac. After all, She had to ensure the family lineage would continue before her departure. As I looked at the familiar scene before me, the suffocating feeling gradually faded away. In a daze, I took out my phone and was shocked to see the date. I had been reborn. Before I could even process it, my grandmother's shouts came from the kitchen. "You silly girl, always wasting things. This melon is still perfectly good to eat." Hearing Grandma's voice, I instinctively turned toward the kitchen. In the kitchen, Grandma was fiddling with a fuzzy loofah she'd picked up downstairs. Next to it sat the decade-old cured meat she'd brought from her hometown, which had been sitting in the fridge for 10 years. A foul odor began to permeate the room. My father and younger brother glanced at me, as if waiting for me to stop Grandma. Seeing that I hadn't moved for a while and Grandma was about to put the moldy loofah into the pan, my father spoke up first. "Aren't you a medical student? You should know whether that moldy loofah is safe to eat or not. Grandma's getting on in years. Even if she doesn't understand, shouldn't you know better?" My heart clenched at those words. In my past life, after Mother passed away, Father used Grandma's loneliness in the countryside as an excuse to bring her home, claiming it was his filial duty, but he'd forgotten Mother had her reasons for keeping Grandma away. 1. My grandmother is not only superstitious and old-fashioned, but also stubborn and holds grudges. She believes that because I'm a girl, I should always give in to my younger brother, and insists I must learn the 3 obediences and 4 virtues, taking the initiative to do household chores. When she saw I was ignoring her, she deliberately caused a scene at my part-time job, which got me fired. I confronted her about it. But my father actually told me to be more understanding of Grandma. What's the point of nitpicking? After all, she is my elder. I held my tongue and followed my father's advice, treating her as family, but then she actually tried to marry me off for a dowry. I was on the verge of a breakdown and argued with Grandma, but my brother and father urged me to be considerate of her old age and not upset her. They told me to just put up with it. It's just marriage. What difference does it make who it's with? This time, too, I kindly reminded her that moldy food isn't safe to eat, but she insisted. "I've already cut off the moldy, rotten parts. Why can't I eat the rest? You don't know the hardship of earning money because you don't have to. This is called being frugal. This is a virtue passed down by the older generation. With no other choice, I had to throw away the food my grandmother made just to stay alive." I seriously explained health knowledge to her. To my dismay, not only did my brother and father refuse to help, but they also accused me of being an ungrateful child. "Grandma went through all the trouble to make this. If you won't eat it, that's one thing, but how could you just throw it away? My sister is so disrespectful. If it were me, I'd eat whatever Grandma made, even if it killed me." Left with no other choice, I ended up disposing of all the moldy fruits, rotten vegetables, and freezer-burnt meat she had brought home, all by myself. Then replaced it with the newly purchased healthy food. She held a grudge against me because of that. She thought I was deliberately giving her a hard time, and that I looked down on her just like my mother did. She intentionally swapped out the medication I needed, hoping I'd die out there. After my death, my father went to the police to defend my grandmother. He insisted she didn't mean any harm. What ill intentions could an elderly woman possibly have? He argued that her memory was just failing with age, asking how she could ever harm her own granddaughter. Eventually, my grandmother was acquitted and released. My brother even made a special trip to my grave to tell me I got what I deserved. Serves me right for mistreating Grandma and being so unfilial. At that thought, I looked up and saw the expectant faces of my brother and father. I smiled and rose to my feet. "Dad, Grandma has lived a long life. She definitely knows better than I do. If she says it's edible, then it's edible. Just wait, I'm going to help Grandma with the cooking right now." When I entered the kitchen, Grandma looked at me warily. "I'm just afraid I might lose her precious old meat." I smiled at her and said sincerely, "Grandma, I think you're absolutely right. I'll definitely follow your example from now on. Where you say east, I won't go west." Grandma eyed me with suspicion, but seeing my earnest expression, she broke into a smug smile. "Now that's more like it. You were so set on listening to your mother before. Would your own grandmother, ever steer you wrong?" I nodded and, under Grandma's direction, started adding ingredients to the soup. A few shriveled scallion leaves, a bit of aged salted fish that's seen better days, some overcooked winter melons swimming in broth, and a splash of soy sauce older than I am. After a flurry of activity between Grandma and me, I set the 3 dishes in a soup before my younger brother and father, then I ladled a bowl of soup for each of them. Father and younger brother stared at the murky green soup with uneasy expressions. They looked at me, hoping I would say something to stop Grandma. After all, he didn't want to eat it or defy Grandma directly, so he wanted me to speak up. I had been the one reasoning with Grandma all along, but now I just stood there, motionless, staring at the 2 of them with a puzzled look. "Dad, little brother, why aren't you eating?" This is Grandma's heartfelt gesture. "How could you not eat it?" Hearing this, Grandma looked at them affectionately and said, "It's all right. Go ahead and eat. There's more in the pot. Eat up. There's plenty more where that came from. I brought all the good stuff from home this time." Grandma shot me a glance and added, "It's all because Ivy was being difficult before. Every time I made something, she'd toss it. It's rare to see her change her ways today. She finally knows how to be filial and even gave me a hand. My younger brother looked at our beaming grandmother and handed me the bowl. Sis, you have the first bite. I waved my hands hurriedly. Oh, I couldn't possibly. I'm just a girl, but you boys are the pillars of this family, the hope for the future, Grandma's pride and joy. Right, Grandma. I stood beside my father, holding chopsticks, and picked up a bite of food to bring to his mouth. Here, father, let me serve you your meal. Grandma said women aren't allowed at the table. The men have to eat first. Grandma looked at me with great satisfaction. Ivy has really grown into such a sensible child. Father's face scrunched up like a bitter melon, as if something were stuck in his throat. He looked at the table full of dishes, then turned to gaze at me expectantly. Ivy, our family isn't that superstitious. How about you? I cut my father off before he could finish speaking. When Grandma called me a worthless burden and only bought gifts for my brother, he turned a blind eye to it all. When I was a child, my grandmother wanted to give me acupuncture, so my mother refused to let her visit, fearing she might mistreat me, yet he said that's just how Grandma is, and there's no point making a fuss about it. Now, to avoid conflict, my father has started challenging Grandma's preference for sons over daughters, but starting to correct it now. It's really too late. I looked at the fear in my father's eyes and said with a smile, "It's okay, Dad, even if we're not superstitious, the elders should still eat first. Here, Dad, have some more. Grandma put a lot of effort into making this. Aren't you the most filial son?" My father gritted his teeth, closed his eyes and opened his mouth, and I seized the chance to stuff the food in. His face instantly turned pale, and it took him a great effort to finally swallow it. I ate it. Okay, he looked at me pleadingly, as if he had just survived a disaster. Seeing this, I immediately picked up another piece of meat and placed it in my father's bowl. "Dad, here, have some meat." With no other choice, my father tremblingly picked up the meat and ate it. Watching his trembling body, I found it somewhat amusing. Seemed like the meat packed quite a punch. My brother was doing his best to stay out of the spotlight. Of course I wasn't about to let him off the hook. I turned to him and nudged his bowl closer. "Hey, try some of this soup. Grandma mentioned you've been pulling all-nighter studying lately. You need to build up your strength." My brother's hand trembled as he held his chopsticks, his eyes darting between Grandma and me with a pleading look. "Sis, I ate too much this morning. I'm really not hungry right now." Before I could say anything, Grandma cut in. "You'll eat even if you're not hungry. You're at that age where you're still growing. Eating well is important for your development. If you don't eat now, what will you do when you get hungry this afternoon?" I nodded in agreement, saying, "Exactly, little brother. See how well Grandma takes care of you, too. You're not going to turn down such a kind gesture, are you?" My brother still didn't move. "Grandma, I'm really not hungry," seeing that he wouldn't eat. I pretended to be hurt. "Darling, you're not rejecting your grandmother, are you? These dishes might be humble, but they're made with all my love. How can you be so disrespectful? Is this how your father raised you?" Grandma's face fell at my words. "Tristan, after all the love I've given you, you won't even eat this for me." I kept stirring the pot. "Dad, why aren't you eating either? Don't tell me you're all turning up your noses at Grandma's cooking." Upon hearing this, Father immediately shook his head. He dreaded nothing more than being called an unfilial son. Grandma refused to believe it and began pouring out her grievances. "My son, how could you treat me this way? When you were little, I changed your diapers and raised you through thick and thin. I'd get up before dawn just to take care of you, and now you have the nerve to look down on me." As she spoke, Grandma kept a close watch on Father's expression. Seeing that Father still refused to eat, she wiped away her tears, slapped her thigh, and wailed, "I'm just old and useless now. I cook for my son and grandson, but neither of them wants to eat a bite." Father looked at Grandma, then at the dishes on the table, and finally forced out the words, "Who said I dislike it? Tristan, you should eat too." My younger brother looked up, staring at Father in surprise. "But Dad, this dish..." Father cut him off. "What's wrong with it? It's perfectly fine. Eat. You will eat it." With that, he picked up a slimy piece of winter melon and shoved it into his mouth with his eyes closed. The winter melon must have been stirred too long. It was practically oozing juice the moment I cut it open. As soon as Dad took a bite, his face scrunched up in disgust. "Take your time, Dad." I handed him a glass of water at just the right moment. Grandma said there's plenty more where that came from, seeing that their father had eaten. The younger brother reluctantly picked up the spoon, scooped some soup, and tremblingly brought it to his mouth. As soon as he swallowed it, he jerked his head away, wanting to spit the soup out, but I quickly held his chin. "Swallow it, little brother. What a waste to spit it out. Grandma spent half a day squatting in the market just to gather these vegetables." My brother's eyes welled up, a mix of hurt and anger, as he pushed my hand away. "That's easy for you to say. Why don't you try it yourself?" I shook my head. "I don't deserve it." Grandma made this for you." He shot me a glare, probably worried about upsetting Grandma, and reluctantly took another big gulp. Grandmother nodded with satisfaction as she watched her son and grandson comply with her wishes. "That's more like it. We never had such luxuries back in my day. Meat was a rare treat reserved for special occasions. I brought the meat your uncle gifted us because I care about you." Father and younger brother exchanged a glance, their eyes filled with utter despair. After all, it's been 10 years since second uncle passed away. Father couldn't take it anymore and suddenly stood up. Before Grandma could react, he grabbed the plates from the table, stormed into the kitchen, and dumped them all into the trash with a loud clatter. My younger brother snapped out of it too, instantly grabbing the 2 remaining dishes on the table, under Grandma's stunned gaze. They dumped those 2 plates of food into the trash as well. They caught a whiff of the foul stench coming from the kitchen. Turning around, they didn't spare what was in the pot either, dumping it all out. Grandma froze for a couple of seconds, then suddenly let out a shriek and rushed over, staring at the trash can with a pained expression. "You, all of you, I went through so much trouble to salvage these vegetables, and you just threw them out. There's so much here, it would have lasted me at least 3 days." Father's tone was filled with resignation. "Mom, this food has gone bad. It could make someone seriously sick. How could it be deadly? I ate it just fine, but you guys get sick from it. Seriously." Grandma sat on the ground, slapping her thighs and crying. "Back when I was starving, I even had to gnaw on tree bark. You all really have it easy these days. My meat, my vegetables, all gone." I stood nearby, helping Grandma up, and said, "Dad, little brother, how could you do this?" My father turned and glared at me. "Shut your mouth. That dish is definitely inedible. I can't just shut up." I walked over to the trash can and pointed at the food inside. "Last time I threw away half of Grandma's moldy cucumber. You said I was being disrespectful and broke the old woman's heart. Even my brother scolded me for being wasteful, but now you're saying it's spoiled and inedible." My father and brother flushed with embarrassment, wanting to argue back but rendered speechless by my words. Those were the exact same words he had shouted at me last time, right to my face. Grandma cried even harder, pointing at my father and scolding. "Listen to her. Even your own daughter has more sense than you do." Father was left speechless, his face turning ashen with frustration. Left with no choice, he resigned himself to educating Grandma, just as I had in my past life. Grandma kept shaking her head, insisting she was too old to understand, after talking until he was hoarse with no success. Father finally turned to me and said, "Ivy, why don't you explain it to Grandma?" I shook my head. "I don't get it. Grandma taught me the 3 obediences and 4 virtues. Whatever you and Grandma say, I'll do." Father was absolutely furious. Just as he was about to speak, a sudden cramp shot through his stomach. He doubled over, clutching his belly, his face beaded with cold sweat. His father no longer had the energy to argue with Grandma and shuffled painfully toward the bathroom. To his surprise, his younger brother was already inside. The father clung to the door, watching it about to give way, and cried out in despair, "Hurry up and come out. I can't hold on much longer." A weak voice came from inside the bathroom. It was the younger brother. "I can't get up either. It's like a running stream back here, coming in waves." The father clutched his stomach, his face pale, so desperate he was kicking the door. "Get out. I'm about to shit my pants. Stop kicking. I want to too, but I can't get up." The younger brother was groaning inside, completely oblivious to his father outside the door. Seeing the bathroom was out of order, father struggled to make his way outside. But after just a couple of steps, right at the doorway, yellow liquid started streaming down his pants. He felt a sudden, forceful surge from behind. The pain was so intense he couldn't stand, and he collapsed onto the floor. I just found it ridiculous. I walked past the living room, glanced at my father having explosive diarrhea by the bathroom door, and leisurely pulled up my phone to record. Grandma poked her head out, frowned, and muttered, "What's the big deal? You're screaming like a stuck pig. Back in my day, I ate wild vegetables and had diarrhea for 3 days straight. I survived just fine. You're just being dramatic." Hearing this, my father's temper flared up, but he was in too much pain to yell. He could only glare at her while gasping for breath. "Mom, just drop it already. Haven't you seen we all got diarrhea?" Grandma stiffened her neck and retorted, "That's because you all have weak stomachs. How dare you blame my cooking for this?" Just as they were speaking, the bathroom door swung open. His younger brother stumbled out, gripping the doorframe for support. His face was deathly pale, and his legs were so weak he nearly collapsed. The moment he shuffled aside, their father barged past him frantically, squeezing into the bathroom. Almost immediately, the sound of the toilet flushing was accompanied by their father's muffled cries of pain. His brother glanced at the mess by the doorway, frowned, and began inching his way along the wall toward the living room. I sidestepped out of the way. My younger brother lay limply on the couch. Before father even finished speaking, my brother broke out in a cold sweat again. He trembled his way to the bathroom door. "Dad, come quick. I'm not feeling well again." A moment later, my younger brother pointed at me. "Sis, call an ambulance." Now, his voice trembling, my brother said, "I need to go to the hospital." My father hunched over, clutching his stomach, writhing in too much pain to speak. I tilted my head at their suffering, putting on an innocent expression. Then I should go ask Grandma first. Whatever Grandma says, I'll do. My brother stared at me in disbelief, his trembling hand still supporting our father. Don't go. I ignored him and turned to call Grandma out. Grandma took in the scene between the two of them. She immediately dismissed the idea of going to the hospital, insisting she had a solution for such a minor ailment. As she said this, she pulled a bottle of medicine from her luggage and muttered, "Hospitals are just scams. Who knows how much money they'd squeeze out of you for a visit? Western medicine is all a scam. To truly heal, you need to rely on the wisdom passed down by our ancestors." My younger brother was so frantic that tears welled up in his eyes, struggling to back away. I smiled and pulled them both onto the couch, then said to my slightly upset grandmother, "Grandma, I believe you. You're never wrong. With how devoted my brother and father are, they'd be even more willing to support you than I am." Granny was delighted by my praise and happily walked over to show them the medicine in her hand. "This medicinal wine is truly remarkable. I'd never use this on an ordinary day. Would I ever do anything to harm you, with no other choice?" The younger brother and their father reluctantly agreed to their grandmother's suggestion. Though still somewhat skeptical, the grandmother nodded, and without even pouring it out, she directly tipped the bottle to their mouths, forcing the yellow liquid down both the brother and father's throats. My younger brother and father drank Grandma's medicinal liquor. They not only had diarrhea but also started vomiting, since Grandma favored my younger brother the most. She gave my father just a sip and poured the rest down my brother's throat. In no time, the little brother slid off the couch, crashed heavily onto the floor, curled up into a ball, convulsed, and passed out. Father was scared out of his wits, scrambling frantically to rush over and hold his son. Tristan, Ivy, call an ambulance." Grandma panicked too and said plaintively, "That's impossible. I made this medicinal liquor with ginseng, and it's been steeping for over 40 years. There's no way it could cause any harm." But seeing my younger brother starting to foam at the mouth, Grandma panicked. She was genuinely afraid it might be fatal and frantically started directing me. Call, hurry up and call for help." I took up my phone and dialed 120. At the hospital, the doctors rushed my father and brother into the emergency room. Fortunately, both of them were successfully resuscitated. But given how much they'd been through, they had to spend the next few days lying in bed with 4 drips. The doctors sighed heavily while reviewing the medical chart during rounds. "Acute gastroenteritis with food poisoning. You must strictly avoid irritants, only bland liquids for now. Absolutely no greasy, raw, cold, or leftover foods." Grandma pursed her lips disapprovingly and muttered under her breath as soon as the doctor left, "What a load of medical nonsense. A man is what he eats, and without meat, where would the strength come from?" I didn't respond, just watched as she got ready to go home and make trotter soup for her father. I immediately pulled out 200 yuan from my bag. "Free, Grandma, I've got your back. In my past life, my grandmother was just like this. I told her I was allergic to peaches, but she insisted I was faking it. Even when I was hospitalized due to the allergy, she still stuck to her opinion. But in that past life, my grandmother never came to check on me when I was in the hospital. Now, I look at my father and younger brother lying weak in their hospital beds. I couldn't help but laugh. After all, they were Grandma's absolute favorites. Sure enough, for the next 3 days, Grandma insisted on defying the doctor's orders. The doctor said no greasy food, so she made meat broth instead. She even specifically picked pork belly to make braised pork for my brother, sneaking bites into his mouth when the nurses weren't looking. Father turned pale with fright. "Mom, the doctor said we shouldn't eat this." Grandma glared and forcefully shoved a piece of fatty meat into my brother's mouth. "What do you know? This is the good stuff." My brother felt so nauseous from eating that his stomach, which had just started to feel a bit better, began to ache again. Clutching his stomach, he pleaded, "Grandma, please. I really can't eat anymore. Tristan is such a good boy. Just one more bite." Grandma switched to a coaxing tone, holding the chopsticks up to his mouth. "I made this especially for you." I sat in the corner of the hospital room peeling an apple. I didn't stop Grandma's actions either. After all, I wanted to show filial piety. It wasn't until my brother was rushed to the emergency room again that Grandma finally settled down a bit. I very reluctantly swapped the chicken soup for millet porridge on the day of discharge. Both my father and younger brother had lost a significant amount of weight and would instinctively frown at the sight of greasy food. The first thing they did after returning home was to throw out all the things Grandma had hoarded. Grandma was so frantic she was hopping mad. Each got a slap. Father and younger brother covered their faces, unable to fight back. They had no choice but to endure Grandma's scolding. After much pleading from father and younger brother, Grandma finally gave up on the idea of scavenging for ingredients to cook. Father is about to get a promotion. The office director hinted privately that as long as the live speech goes smoothly, the deputy manager position is as good as his. After rummaging through the entire house, my father finally decided to just buy a new suit. Overhearing this, Grandma immediately thumped her chest and declared, "I'll pick one out for you." My father tried to refuse. But Grandma cut him off with a stern question. Don't you trust me? Didn't I buy all your previous clothes for you? But Mom, this is really important to me. I'm not joking. Grandma wouldn't accept it and retorted angrily. So what? What's the difference? I'm your mother, and you have to listen to me. In the end, my father agreed. It was just a suit, after all, and he was a devoted son. The next day, I watched as my grandmother headed to a stall at the local market, thanks to her haggling. She managed to snag a set for just $50. Father frowned at the suit Grandma had bought. Mom, where on earth did you get this? None of your business. Grandma shoved the suit into his arms. There's no way I'd pick something flawed. How come you're happy to wear what your wife buys you, but you're always skeptical about the things I get you? Father was left speechless and could only hang the suit in the closet, planning to secretly change into the one he'd bought earlier on the day of his presentation. But when the day of the presentation arrived, Father found the closet empty and rushed to find Grandma. Mom, where are my clothes? I stepped out of the bathroom at just the right moment, holding my father's clothes, and walked over to them. Grandma, I've washed all of Dad's clothes, not a single piece missing. Father's face went pale as he stared at the dripping wet old suit. Ivy, why did you wash all of these? I put on an innocent act and said, Grandma told me to. Grandma says girls should do more housework at home. You have to learn how to do laundry and cook, or no one will want to marry you in the future. Grandma nodded approvingly. Ivy, I did a good job raising you, didn't I? Seeing the displeased look on her father's face, she patted him on the back. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. The new one I bought for you hasn't been washed. I'm coming to watch your speech today. You have to wear the clothes I bought for you. Father wanted to refuse, but seeing Grandma's face, he finally resigned himself and put it on. Being the dutiful child that I am, of course I had to accompany Grandma to watch Father's speech. Father took a deep breath, walked onto the stage clutching his speech notes, his back ramrod straight, but the cheap suit had no structure to it, and the fabric felt utterly lacking in quality. Even though Father was being very careful, his suit was still all wrinkled, compared to everyone else's suits. It was like night and day, for the worst part was when Father went on stage to give thanks and bend over. The sound of his pants tearing was painfully obvious in the quiet hall. Every eye in the room was involuntarily drawn to the tear in my father's trousers. A long rip had split open the sea of his suit pants, revealing a pair of faded gray underwear beneath. The audience fell into a dead silence at first, then erupted into thunderous laughter. Some whipped out their phones to take pictures, others stifled giggles behind their hands, while the department manager's face turned as dark as a storm cloud. Father froze on stage, clutching his speech notes with a death grip. He could feel everyone's eyes piercing through him like needles. The speech that day was a complete disaster, as expected. The assistant manager position went to someone else. And Father got an earful from his boss for his attire damaging the company's image. His face was ashen when he got home. The moment he stepped inside, he slammed that shabby suit onto the floor. Mom, look at this. This is the fine suit you bought. It's all your fault. My promotion just went down the drain. Grandma knew it too, of course. But even if she felt guilty, she wouldn't apologize. After all, apologizing would mean admitting she was wrong, wouldn't it? She glanced cautiously at her father and muttered, They were perfectly fine when I picked them out. You must have stretched them out with your weight. My weight. Father trembled with rage. This fabric is as thin as paper. How dare you blame me for this? Do you have any idea how long my colleagues laughed at me this afternoon? How am I supposed to face them now? Wasn't I just trying to save you money? Grandma also lost her temper, pointing a finger at Father. I'm your mother. How could you treat me like this? I sat nearby, watching my father tremble with anger. As a dutiful child, of course I had to side with Grandma, so I chimed in from the sidelines. Dad, please don't be angry. Grandma meant well. She's just being frugal. You should cut her some slack. Remember when my part-time job fell through, you told me to be the bigger person too. She is your mother, after all. Seeing me back her up, Grandma straightened her posture even more and said, See, at least Ivy understands. You didn't get that promotion because you simply didn't have the luck for it, and now you're blaming me. My father turned to glare at me, but he couldn't figure out how to argue back. He could only clench his fists and snap, Shut your mouth. You don't get to speak here. Then he turned away, raised his voice, and said to my grandmother, Mom, stop being so frugal. We're not short on money. What's the point of pinching pennies like this? Do you have any idea how much the hospital stay cost last time? Do you know how much of a raise I'd get if I were promoted? You're driving me crazy. Grandma pursed her lips and said nothing. Father called out again. Grandma nodded reluctantly. All right, I won't do it again. Father let out a sigh, looking at me, then at Grandma. Finally, he kicked the chair hard, turned around, stormed into the bedroom, and slammed the door shut. I looked at the closed door and couldn't help but smile. Little did Father know, aside from being stubborn, Grandma also holds a grudge like no other. Sure enough, just a few days later, Grandma was up to her old tricks again. That evening, she walked in carrying a large plastic bag. Dad, sitting on the couch, casually asked, Mom, what did you buy? Grandma set the bag down on the coffee table and slowly opened it. Food, she said. The father leaned in to look and couldn't help but frown. Did you really have to buy so much? We'll never finish all this. Grandma chuckled, pulling a small receipt from her pocket and handing it to him. See for yourself. Things are so expensive these days. This little bit cost me over 10,000. How much? Just as father picked up the water glass, his hand trembled, spilling half of it. He snatched the receipt, his eyes wide as saucers. Strawberries, $200 a pound. Are they robbing us? They said they're organic, flown in from overseas. It's normal for them to be pricey, Grandma retorted with unshakable confidence, a hint of triumph in her eyes. Didn't you say our family doesn't need to worry about money? What's wrong with getting my precious grandson some decent food? Father's face flushed instantly. 5. That still doesn't add up to over 10,000. What else did you buy? Grandma shot him a glance and slowly pulled out a bottle of soy sauce from another bag. And this one, 10,000 a bottle. They say it prevents cancer. Father picked up the soy sauce bottle, his hands trembling. Mom, you've lost your mind. Grandma shrugged with an innocent look. Didn't you tell me not to be frugal? I did exactly what you said. Bought the expensive, high-quality stuff. So why are you upset now? I watched from the side, seeing how pleased Grandma looked. I knew she was deliberately trying to teach father a lesson. Grandma has always held grudges. In a past life, I wasted her food, so she swapped my medicine. Now, because Dad scolded her last time, she's upset and wants to get back at him. Dad told Grandma not to pinch pennies, so she's deliberately spending freely to make a point, using his own words against him. Father looked at Grandma, clutching his hair, his tone almost pleading. Mom, I was wrong. Okay, I admit it. You should really cut back on spending. Don't buy such expensive things. My salary can't handle this kind of extravagance. Watching him sweat bullets with panic, Grandma smiled with smug satisfaction, her tone dripping with sarcasm. Didn't you say we didn't need this money? See, you still need me in the end. If it weren't for my thriftiness, this household would have fallen apart long ago. Father clutched his chest in agitation, unable to speak for a long moment, likely torn between anguish over the money and fury at being manipulated. Yet this was his mother standing before him, and he couldn't possibly strike her, nor could he scold her, for fear that Grandma would deliberately stir up trouble again, just as she was doing now. Father was truly filled with regret now. How did we end up bringing Grandma over? It wasn't just father who regretted it. My younger brother did too, while I was at home on vacation. Grandma suddenly rushed over, glanced at the phone in my hand, and frowned. I heard from a friend that all phones emit radiation, and staring at them for too long can make you dumb. You're a college student. You know more about these things. Tell me, do you think they're right? I blinked, looking at my grandmother with a puzzled expression. After all, she has always favored sons over daughters. When I was a child, she even considered abandoning me. Her asking now is definitely not out of concern for me. While I was hesitating, my younger brother sitting across from me suddenly perked up. He put down his game console and deliberately raised his voice. Grandma, they're right. All electronic devices emit radiation, and it's not good for your health. As he said this, he glanced at the phone in my hand. If you keep holding that phone all day, sis, you might end up losing your mind. Seeing my brother's smirk, I knew right away he was deliberately stirring up trouble and targeting me. He saw Grandma eyeing my phone and thought it was a perfect chance to stir the pot. Sure enough, Grandma took the bait, her eyes lighting up as she said, "It'd be a shame to just throw it away. Let me think about it." Hearing Grandma say that, my brother shot me a smug look. After all, I didn't believe Grandma had my best interests at heart. Sure enough, the next day, Grandma came up with a clever plan. She brought over an enamel basin and poured in alcohol halfway. I walked over curiously and asked, "Grandma, what are you trying to do?" Grandma looked up and declared proudly, "I may not understand things like radiation, but alcohol can disinfect. Just dump the electronics in there and they should be fine." I had the basin of alcohol and tucked my phone deeper into my pocket. "Grandma, what are you planning to soak?" Grandma said matter-of-factly, "Of course. To let your little brother soak his tablet, phone, and game console. These are all electronic devices. Your brother said yesterday that it'll make him stupid. He's the future of our family, and he's taking the college entrance exam this year. He can't afford to lose his smarts." Watching Grandma fuss over my younger brother with such affection, she went on and on without once asking if I needed anything. I wasn't upset at all. In fact, I felt a strange sense of relief in that moment. Following Grandma's instructions, I started gathering all the electronic devices from my brother's room. Grandma stared at the pile of gadgets in my arms, snatched it right away and dropped it into the basin. Just then, my younger brother came back as well. He walked over and asked what we were doing. Grandma replied triumphantly, "You said it would make us dumb. Well, today I'm giving these electronics a good soak." 6. My brother was delighted, noticing my solemn expression. He deliberately said to me with a smile, "Sis, you're not feeling sorry for him, are you?" I frowned and looked at my brother, which only made him more convinced that I was reluctant to let go. My younger brother seemed even more delighted, egging Grandma on from the side. "Grandma, my sister is just being stingy. You should soak it for her. It's for her own good anyway. No need to feel sorry for her." As he spoke, he winked at me, a barely concealed grin on his face. Clearly convinced that basin of alcohol was meant for me, I stood there with my arms crossed. "What do you mean by that? Little brother, you're not upset, are you, sis? Grandma did this for your own good. Just be the bigger person. If I were you, I wouldn't hold a grudge against Grandma. Grandma is always right. After all her hard work, you should really show your appreciation." I couldn't help but smile at my little brother's smug expression. Oblivious to my reaction, he continued, "Hey sis, where's your old phone? You should soak it too. Grandma says the sooner you do it, the better. It'll keep you from going senile. Why not toss in that tablet Mom bought you earlier too? Don't be so stingy. That's not how you show respect to your parents." Grandma didn't quite grasp the situation and just said to my younger brother, don't worry. If the tablet's soaked, I'll make sure not a single piece is missing." Hearing this, my brother became even more smug. "Sis, Grandma really does care about you. Every little bit counts." I walked over to my brother, grabbed him by the collar, and pulled him closer. "Care about me? You're overthinking it. Little brother, Grandma cares about you the most. So guess who that electronic device you soaking belongs to?" My brother scoffed. "Who are you trying to fool? You must be confused. How could that possibly be mine?" He trailed off mid-sentence, his eyes landing on the game console in the basin, and froze completely. The smile on his younger brother's face stiffened as he stared in disbelief at the tablet and game console in the basin. After a long moment, it finally sank in. He pointed a trembling finger at the basin, his voice shaking. "Is that my phone, my tablet, my game console? What else?" Grandma fished out my brother's tablet, splashing alcohol onto him in the process. "You're the one carrying on the family line. Who else would we soak if not you?" She paused, then pointed at me. "Your sister's a bit slow, but she'll marry out of the family anyway. You're different. I'm only doing this for your own good, for my own good." The younger brother pointed at the object in the basin and shouted at his grandmother, "That's my tablet. Do you have any idea how much data I've stored on it? And my game console and phone? You soaked them. What am I supposed to use now?" Grandma was taken aback by his outburst, and then she got angry too. "Why are you being so ungrateful, child? Didn't I soak them because you said they'd make me stupid? You were just saying you supported me a moment ago, so what's all this fuss about now?" My brother suddenly remembered the things he'd said earlier, those mocking words, and they now felt like slaps across his own face. I thought you were dating my sister." He hung his head, his voice thick with regret. "I never asked you to hit on me, so what if you did? Isn't my dear brother being filial? Isn't he being generous? Grandma's happy. Grandma's doing this for your own good. Grandma's the best, right?" I mimicked his tone from earlier, saying it sarcastically, with every word I said. My brother's face grew paler. He turned to glare at me, his eyes reddening, his mouth opening and closing without a sound. I threw every one of his gloating remarks right back at him. Grandma fished out my brother's game console and set it out on the balcony to dry. "What's there to be upset about? It'll dry out in no time and be just as good as new." My little brother looked at his prized possession and finally couldn't hold back his tears. Watching him break down like that, I couldn't help but feel a little amused. Back when Grandma clearly favored him, he never once spoke up for me. He told me not to hold a grudge over the fact that I was almost sold. Now I hope he can be a bit more generous too. My younger brother, deprived of his electronics, begged our father to buy him new ones, but father refused, citing my brother's declining grades as the reason. Grandma was quite worried when she heard the news. My brother's grades had actually dropped. She knew she had to come up with a plan. The next day, just as my brother was about to leave for cram school, Grandma stopped him. She affectionately wrapped her arm around her younger brother's. "Skip the tutoring class. I think it's just a scam. Better to pray to the god of literature. I guarantee it'll work better than grinding through practice problems." Her brother looked up abruptly and said, "Grandma, that's just superstition. What do you know? This is ancient wisdom. Better to believe it exists than to dismiss it entirely." Grandma pulled a crumpled yellow paper from her pocket, with a crudely drawn deity sketched on it. "Carry this portrait of the god of literature in your pocket, and you'll surely guess the right answers on the exam. Forget that lousy cram school. Today, I'm taking you to the mountain temple to pray. It'll guarantee your success on the college entrance exam." My brother pushed the yellow paper aside and said, "I'm not going. If you want to go, go by yourself. You don't have a say in this." Grandma's stubborn temper flared up, and she grabbed my brother's arm, pulling him outside. My father tried to stop her, but a sharp glare from Grandma made him back down. It was me burning incense at the temple that got you into high school back then. You wouldn't have made it otherwise. 7. Now it's my grandson's turn. Stay out of the way. My brother stumbled as he was dragged along, turning to yell at our father. Dad, I'm not going. Who the hell even knows where that temple is? Father opened his mouth to speak, but in the end, he just sighed. Why don't you go for a walk with your grandma? It's her way of showing she cares. After all, looking down from upstairs, I saw my little brother being half-dragged, half-pushed into the pedicab by Grandma. His protests were completely useless. The next evening, my younger brother came running back all by himself. He was covered head to toe in mud. His clothes were tattered, with bits of grass stuck to his face. He looked like he'd just fled a famine, the moment he saw our father. He burst into tears, overwhelmed with, "My grandma has lost her mind. She gathered a bunch of old women to splash water all over me. They even stripped me naked, claiming some old man would bless me. That pervert actually touched me. If he did this to a girl, maybe I'd understand, but I'm a guy, and why shouldn't my sister be the one to offer prayers?" I couldn't help but frown at those words. What do you mean since she's a girl? Just let it go. What do you mean I should go instead? I looked at my brother, who seemed to take everything for granted, and spoke coldly. You're such a mix of traditional and modern, aren't you? You embrace the outdated feudal practices that benefit you, but conveniently ignore or reject the ones that don't. My brother was taken aback by my question, his mouth opening as he tried to defend himself. I do no such thing. What do you mean there isn't? I took a step forward, staring straight at his face. You always complain about little fairies demanding bride prices when you read the news, saying it's all outdated nonsense. But when Grandma said she'd give all my bride price to you, suddenly you had nothing to say against it. That's different. My brother raised his voice sharply. Grandma asked you to do this. If you respect her, you should listen to her. What does that have to do with me? It's not my fault she prefers me and wants to give me the money. I looked at him and smiled. Yeah, we should be filial to Grandma. So where did you leave Grandma? Why did you come back alone? He was at a loss for words, too embarrassed to admit he had run off by himself. He doesn't care about Grandma's feelings or her safety at all. Seeing him like that suddenly struck me as ridiculous. So I turned and walked away. I can't be bothered to argue with him anymore. I'll leave this house after graduation, with Mother gone. There's no one left in this family who truly cares about me. Just let them enjoy their lovely time with Grandma. Grandma came back later. She started complaining to my younger brother. This is the master I went through so much trouble to invite. How could you embarrass me like that? My brother turned away and said resentfully, "What kind of master? He's just a fraud." You're the only one who believes in him. Grandma gave my brother a firm pat on the back and pulled a jade necklace from her pocket to hand to him. You foolish child. The master said you angered the deities by running away halfway through. Only by wearing this will you be safe. You better keep this on. I paid 20,000 for it. My younger brother clutched the stone, his face contorted. 20,000? Are you insane? I'm not wearing it. You must wear it. Grandma insisted as she forcefully put it on my younger brother. The master said this stone not only wards off misfortune, but also guarantees you'll rank in the top 10 in the mock exams. You must wear it for 81 full days. No taking it off under any circumstances. Understand? The younger brother couldn't persuade Grandma, so he just nodded in agreement. Over the next few days, he kept complaining about feeling dizzy. Not only was he zoning out in class, but he also had frequent nosebleeds, prompting his tutor to call home. His father rushed over only to find the boy looking frighteningly pale. Didn't get enough rest. His father felt his forehead. The next moment, his younger brother fainted and collapsed. Terrified, his father carried him and rushed to the hospital. My father called me to the hospital just as the test results came in. The doctor told us it was acute poisoning caused by excessive radiation exposure. If you keep wearing this jade pendant, you won't last more than a few days. Upon hearing this, Grandma suddenly cried out, "That can't happen. He's the only heir to our family. What will become of our family line now that he's gone?" Overhearing Grandma's words, Father retorted irritably, "How can you even say that? This is all because you insisted on seeing that so-called master. Look what's happened now. Not only is the money gone, but my son ended up in the hospital too." Seeing how harshly my father spoke to her, Grandma shrank back a little but still insisted. "The master said it's a spiritual jade. Maybe the hospital made a mistake." 8. Made a mistake? What are you thinking? Tristan wore that stone for a few days and ended up in the hospital, and you're still saying it's not because of the stone. Granny was left speechless by the question, then suddenly plopped down on the ground and burst into loud sobs. The days passed one after another. Well, I don't know either. It's not like I wanted this to happen. I only had his best interests at heart. All I want is for him to get into a good university and carry on the family line. Is that so wrong? The office door was left ajar, and people in the hallway craned their necks to peek inside, embarrassed by the stares from passers-by. The father had no choice but to grab his mother's arm and try to pull her up. "Stop making a scene here. I'm not getting up." Grandma threw a tantrum on the ground. If you hadn't forced me to come to the city, I never would have met such a scammer. This is all your fault. Father never expected Grandma to be so unreasonable. Under the doctor's reproachful gaze, he had no choice but to admit his mistake. Fine, I was wrong. It's all my fault. Okay, would you please just get up already? Granny seemed satisfied and quickly got to her feet, still muttering under her breath. See, I told you it wasn't my fault. But given Tristan's current situation, we really should find him a wife soon. Father didn't hear what Grandma said. His mind was completely occupied with my younger brother. I heard it, but as a girl, how could I dare interfere with Grandma's affairs? In Grandma's mind, only my brother carries the family bloodline. Only a son born to my brother can carry on the family line. Because the doctor said my brother doesn't have much time left, Grandma started to panic. It takes at least 10 months to have a baby, and what if the first child is another girl? What if we can't make it in time? That's why Grandma is so anxious. She didn't even bother to ask me. After all, I don't matter right now. Even if we need bride price money, finding a girlfriend for my brother comes first. So the moment my brother got out of the hospital, Grandma started hounding him about getting married. When are you getting married? Are you seeing anyone you like? If you are, bring them home to meet us. If it feels right, you could get married next month. My brother felt a chill run down his spine. Grandma, I'm only 18. I have my college entrance exams this year. Why are you bringing this up now? What's wrong with being 18? Grandma grabbed his sleeve abruptly, her eyes glinting with an eerie light. With your health issues, what if you can't have children later on? You should find a wife while you're still young and start a family soon. We can't let the family line die out. His father tried to reason with her. Mom, Tristan is still young. Let's talk about this another time. Grandma glared at his father and snapped. Another time, when we're both lying in our coffins. The father sighed helplessly, but seeing his younger brother's expression, he had no choice but to try to reason with Grandma. Mom, there's really no need to rush into this. At least wait until the kid finishes his college entrance exams. Grandma let out a cold snort and stared straight at her son, as if struck by a sudden thought. A smile tugged at the corner of her mouth, and her tone grew eager. Fine, that works too. If you won't have the baby, then you have it. The cup in his father's hand clattered to the floor. He stood frozen in place as if struck by lightning. After a long pause, Father seemed to doubt his own ears, unable to believe what he'd heard and asking Grandma to repeat herself. Mom, what did you say? I said you should have the baby. Grandma smiled, a calculating glint shining in her eyes. She looked at her father as if he were a prop. You're only in your 40s, not old at all. You can still have children. Even widow Zhang in the village had a healthy baby boy at 49. Why not find a younger woman and add another branch to the family tree? It'd be perfect. That's just not right. Father frantically waved his hands and stepped back. At my age, how could I possibly have another child? Besides, I already have 2 children. What do you mean it's impossible? Grandma cut him off. I don't care. You and Tristan must give me a grandchild. Father clutched his chest, gasping for breath as if he might collapse at any moment. He glanced at his hysterical mother, then at his son, before suddenly grabbing his coat and bolting out the door. I'm done with this. I've had enough. Grandma froze for a moment, then shouted toward the doorway. Ugh, no sense of responsibility. How did I give birth to such a useless son? If I could handle this myself, I wouldn't need you at all. She then turned to look at her younger brother, overwhelmed by her pestering. The brother seized the chance to slip away while their grandmother was cooking, with their father's help. The brother stayed hidden outside, never came back. He thought he could avoid Grandma, but 3 days later, flyers with his photo were plastered all over the community bulletin boards, even on lampposts at the market. Grandma even dragged me to my brother's tutoring center to hand out flyers. 9. The photo on the flyer is a nude picture my brother took during his last prayer session. Grandma said this would fully showcase his assets. To help him find a match faster, Grandma made sure to specify no age restrictions, no marital history requirements, no background checks, just must be able to have children. While I was handing out flyers diligently, my brother rushed over and threw them right in our grandmother's face. Then he started screaming at her like a madman. Grandma, what on earth are you trying to do? Finding you a wife, that's what. Grandma picked up the flyer, carefully dusting it off. Look how dashing this one is. Guaranteed to attract someone who wants to marry you. Dashing, my brother's voice trembled. This is a nude photo. You've plastered my naked pictures all over the streets. How am I supposed to go to school? How can I face anyone? What's a guy got to be afraid of? Grandma said it like it was the most natural thing in the world and kept bossing me around to hand out flyers. After all, you're getting married. Sooner or later, you'll be seeing each other naked anyway. What does a guy like you need privacy for? Even nude loan scams don't target men. What's there for anyone to even say about it? None at all. My younger brother was trembling with rage, pointing at the flyer and shouting. Everyone at school was laughing at me just now, saying the only way I can find a wife is by handing out these things. Let them laugh. A man needs to develop a thick skin if he wants to make something of himself in the real world. Grandma had no idea what was upsetting her grandson so much. She walked over to him and gave his shoulder a reassuring pat. Don't worry, those who laughed at you are just jealous. They simply can't stand to see you doing well. She paused for a moment, then lowered her voice and leaned in closer to his ear. So, get this, a 30-year-old widow called me yesterday. She's willing to marry right away, no dowry needed. Just wants to have a child as soon as possible. Sounds like a good deal to me. Why not meet her when you have time? I'm not interested, my brother roared and stumbled backward. Seeing that Grandma was beyond reason, he lunged at me, gripping my arms so tightly his nails nearly drew blood, as if all of this was my fault. Sis, why did you bring Grandma here? She's like this. Why didn't you stop her? Are you doing this on purpose? Can't stand to see me doing well. You're absolutely disgusting. I'm going to tell Dad when I get home. Let's see how he deals with you. I found it rather amusing how he was taking his frustration out on me. In my past life, I actually tried to stop Grandma from doing what she did, but at my graveside, my brother said I had it coming. He said it was a shame. If I were still alive, he wouldn't have to worry about the dowry. At that thought, I shook off his hand, my face darkening, and threw the flyer right in his face. I stared at my stunned brother, my voice icy. Wasn't it you who told me to be filial to Grandma? Then how could I possibly disobey Grandma's words? I took a step forward, forcing him to retreat further. Forgot to mention, Grandma isn't just handing out flyers. She's already booked your blind dates from tomorrow through the second half of the year. I've even canceled your tutoring classes for you. Happy now, little brother. Grandma dotes on you so much. Look around, you're quite the celebrity now. The younger brother grew frightened and turned to look at the crowd encircling them. People held up their phones to take pictures. Their pointing and staring felt like needles pricking into my younger brother. Some whispered about the photos on the flyer. A troublemaker laughed and shouted grim loudly. Most people looked at my younger brother with contempt. His face went from red to pale. Seeing him like this, I bent down to pick up the flyer and held it right in front of his eyes. Little brother, how does it feel to be treated like a breeding tool? You know how Grandma is. She never gives up until she gets what she wants. At the rate Grandma's going, I'll get to meet my little niece or nephew next year. Grandma's already picked out names for them. If it's a boy, he'll be called Tinsy. If it's a girl, she'll be called Joudy. If the first one's a girl, they'll just try for another. The first one's a boy, then we'll just keep trying for more. My younger brother had finally had enough. He shoved me aside and pushed his way through the crowd before taking off. When my father came home from work and saw the flyers scattered on the street, he pieced most of it together right away. Mom, Tristan is still young. There's no need to rush into this. Shut your mouth. Grandma pointed at my father's nose and scolded. This is all your fault for spoiling him. You let him study so much that he's forgotten even to carry on the family line. Anyway, we must find him a wife, or I'll die right here in front of you. My father couldn't take it anymore and started arguing with Grandma. I stood on the balcony, watching a few elderly women downstairs holding flyers and gossiping. Ever since Grandma caused a scene at my younger brother's tutoring class, my brother stopped going to tutoring because he'd get mocked every time he showed up. He shut himself indoors all day long. Every day, the father knocked 3 times. Only to be met with dead silence or the occasional dull thud of something being thrown, but Grandma saw nothing wrong with it. Instead, she brought strange women home every day, her grocery basket in hand. It's fine if Tristan won't open the door, I'll screen them for him first. She sat in the living room, peeling apples for those women, her voice so loud it could pierce through 3 floors. My grandson is just a bit shy, but he's quite handsome. Yes, he's in good health with no illnesses, just has a bit of a scholar's temperament. Please bear with him. Most of those women would make an excuse and slip away within 10 minutes. Those who didn't leave were driven away by my father. Grandma started to think that either science or metaphysics must have some use. Grandma consulted a traditional Chinese doctor and brewed potent tonic soups every day. Both my father and younger brother drank it and couldn't sleep through the night. Not only that, but Grandma also enshrined a child-giving guanyin at home. Every day, I'd cleanse myself and burn incense, praying to the Bodhisattva to bless our family with a child. Watching my father and grandmother argue yet again, I couldn't help but feel a sudden urge to laugh. In my past life, Grandma forced me to drop out of school and get married, while Dad actually urged me to go along with her wishes. Getting married and settling down isn't such a bad idea. After all, a girl is expected to marry sooner or later. My younger brother also tried to persuade me. Sis, don't be so stubborn. What if you make Grandma sick with worry? To avoid them, I had no choice but to lock myself in the bedroom. Mom, now it's my brother hiding in the bedroom, and my father is the one freaking out. How the tables have turned. The standoff ended with both father and younger brother breaking down. They conspired to send Grandma back to the countryside, but it's easier to invite the deity than to send it away. Father resolved to have a serious talk with Grandma and convince her to leave on her own. After much hesitation, Father finally spoke up. Mom, maybe it's best if you go back to the countryside. What did you say? Seeing the hopeful look in my younger brother's eyes, Father had no choice but to continue. Mom, I'm saying you should go back to the countryside, naturally. Grandma wasn't happy about it. She frowned and glared at Father angrily. Fine, I raised you all these years, and now that I'm no longer useful, you're just going to kick me out, is that it? Father quickly shook his head. No, it's not like that, Mom. Just go back to the countryside for now. When I have time, I'll definitely come visit you often. As soon as Father finished speaking, Grandma shot up from her chair. Before Father could react, she flung the door open. 10. The voice was so loud it seemed to pierce through the entire building. Oh my heavens, someone come and judge this for me. My own son has no conscience. He's actually trying to kick me out. This old bag of bones is going to be tossed back to the countryside to feed the dogs. The neighbors heard the commotion and came rushing over, crowding the hallway and craning their necks to see. Seeing the crowd gathering, Grandma suddenly plopped down on the ground, pounding her thighs and wailing at the top of her lungs. Just look at this. I came all the way from the countryside, washing their clothes and cooking their meals every single day, and now, my own son says I'm in the way and wants to kick me out. If word gets back home, how will I ever show my face again? After all I've done, I've raised nothing but an ungrateful wretch. Dad rushed over and tried to pull Grandma up from the floor. Mom, don't say that. I'm not kicking you out. I just thought you could go back home for a few days. That's exactly what kicking me out means. Grandma stayed sitting on the floor, refusing to get up, and cried even harder. It seems you're just waiting for me to die out here in the countryside. When you had a fever as a child, I carried you for miles to see a doctor, and now you won't even let me have a peaceful meal. A neighbor who couldn't stand watching any longer stepped in and said, Ivy, your mother is getting older. Can you talk things out properly instead of just throwing her out like that? But you've always been such a devoted daughter. Other neighbors chimed in as well. Some said the father was being unreasonable. Others tried to calm the grandmother down. The hallway erupted into chaos, like a pot boiling over. I was holding my phone, recording a video. It was kind of funny watching Grandma spout nonsense to pressure my father. She even started using the scar from her morning fall to fabricate a story about him hitting her. Everyone started accusing my father of being unfilial, his face flushed with shame, his entire body trembling. He used to think his grandmother's tantrums were just an elder's temper. His mother was overreacting. His mom wasn't that intimidating. Only when it happened to him did he realize how suffocating it felt, watching Grandma weep before the neighbors about my unfilial behavior. Father tried hard to defend himself, but it was no use. In the end, with no other options left, seeing that Grandma was about to make a scene at the company, Father had no choice but to grit his teeth and admit his fault. Mom, I was wrong. I won't make you leave anymore. Please get up. But Grandma wouldn't let it go, pressing Father to make a vow. Left with no choice, Father swore an oath in front of the neighbors, and only then did Grandma slowly rise to her feet. Her expression shifted in an instant. She knew that as long as she accused them of being unfilial, someone would always take her side. As long as her children cared about their reputation, they wouldn't dare to confront her directly. Society would also side with her. At her age, nobody would dare send her to jail. After the neighbor left, her father slumped onto the sofa, clutching his hair and letting out a stifled groan. My younger brother walked over and said with a hurt tone, Dad, what am I supposed to do if she won't leave? I can't just wait for her to die. I don't have that kind of patience. Pressured by his son, the father had no choice but to try a gentler approach. For example, tell Grandma that the new house back home needs repairs. For instance, the family land needs someone to manage it. How about traveling to broaden your horizons? But Father underestimated Grandma's determination. She talked until she was blue in the face, but Grandma still wouldn't agree. Grandma was complaining to me, too, that father of yours, I don't even want to talk about him. He never does anything productive, can't tell what's important, and has no sense of priorities. What matters most right now is carrying on the family bloodline. Really all that matters. Honestly, after saying this, Grandma took my hand and, as if struck by a thought, sighed. They're not as filial as you are. You're the one who truly understands me. What a shame. No. I need to go and hurry them up again. If we just wait for the two of them, it'll take forever. Later, my younger brother and father were pushed to their limits. They bought sleeping pills and secretly poured them into Grandma's water cup. They saw that Grandma had fallen into a deep sleep. One packed the bags while the other hurried Grandma along, moving like the wind. They feared that if they were even a step too late, this jinx would never leave. As father and younger brother stuffed Grandma into the back seat, his hands were still trembling. He couldn't shake the feeling that Grandma might suddenly open her eyes, asked him why he still isn't married and when he plans to have kids. They dropped Grandma off at the old house, laid her on the bed, didn't even dare to unpack, and hit the gas to rush back. They were so nervous they took a wrong turn. It took them 3 tries to finally exit the highway. When we got home, Dad saw Grandma and me on the couch. His face went pale, and he could barely stand steady. My brother looked horrified, clutching his chest in disbelief. Grandma, how are you here? Grandma shot them a glare. I took the train back. Ivy helped me buy the ticket. I can't believe I sleepwalk. I'd better lock the door next time. Never mind about me. Where have you two been all morning? father and younger brother were both lost in their own thoughts, staring blankly. Grandma perked up with interest. Did you two go looking for women together, like father, like son on the battlefield? This isn't good. What about the child's place in the family later on? In the village, they'd at least try to hide this kind of thing. The city's just more open. That question nearly made my father and brother break down on the spot that night. I saw my father and brother squatting on the balcony, chain-smoking 2 packs of cigarettes with numb expressions. When I came out, my father suddenly grabbed me and said, "Ivy, help me figure something out. I can't go on like this." 11. I smiled and asked, "Dad, I told you before that we couldn't bring Grandma here. What did Mom tell you before she passed away?" She said Grandma doesn't understand reason. And what happened? No matter how I tried to persuade you, you and your brother wouldn't listen. You insisted Grandma meant well, that she couldn't possibly be bad, just a bit old-fashioned. When Grandma was teasing me, you all just stood by and watched. Now that the whip is lashing your own back, you finally understand the pain. My younger brother looked at me, suddenly stood up, and pointed at me. "Ivy, don't you gloat over here." Gloating, I raised an eyebrow and tipped 2 steps closer. My gaze as cold as ice. "Fine. Then let me give you a brilliant idea." I looked at my younger brother and said, enunciating each word deliberately, "Grandma is deeply religious and fears nothing more than the family line ending." My brother's head snapped up, a glimmer of hope flashing in his eyes as if he'd grasped a lifeline. "You mean we should fake some supernatural stuff?" I never said that. I shrugged and turned to walk toward the room. My gaze drifted to the corner. They had no idea Grandma was a light sleeper. The slightest noise would wake me up. I could hear my father and younger brother discussing something. After hearing what they said, Grandma was probably up to something again. From that day on, my brother started acting all mysterious. In the dead of night, he deliberately wept in his room, wailing like a woman. His father played along and hired someone to pose as a Taoist priest. The fake priest put on a show before finally turning to the grandmother and saying, "Elder, your energy is in conflict with the feng shui of this house. If you stay here too long, it'll bring bad luck to your future descendants. If you want children, you'd better go back to your hometown soon." Grandma didn't argue back on the spot, but just let out a sigh. She told my father that she was planning to return to her hometown. When my brother and father found out, they were absolutely thrilled, walking around like they were on cloud 9. Early the next morning, Grandma started packing her bags, saying she'd leave tomorrow and that we should have a farewell dinner tonight. That's what she said, but I noticed her sneaking off to the vet's to buy a whole bunch of medicine. Being the devoted granddaughter, I immediately decided to pretend I hadn't seen a thing. I even thoughtfully mentioned that I had plans that evening and wouldn't be back for dinner. Grandma didn't care at all when she heard it. Both my father and younger brother were thrilled that Grandma decided to leave, and they completely ignored me, didn't even ask, so I ended up spending the night at a hotel. When I came back during the day, the house was buzzing with excitement. My father and younger brother were slumped on the sofa, their faces deathly pale, moaning and groaning, their clothes all disheveled and askew. They were fearfully covering their lower bodies. A woman in a floral dress sat by the coffee table, a cigarette dangling from her lips. When she saw me come in, she looked up and grinned, revealing a pair of yellowed teeth. I ignored him. "You're here to have fun too, I see. Then it's too late. They probably won't be able to get up for 3 or 4 days. My jaw dropped in shock, and I shook my head. "I'm part of this family. He's my father, and he's my brother." As I spoke, my eyes swept over the empty pill bottles on the coffee table. The label read veterinary aphrodisiac, the kind commonly sold at rural animal clinics. I gasped in shock. Grandma actually went through with it. It was even more terrifying than I'd imagined. I stayed by the doorframe, keeping my distance and ready to bolt at any moment. "I was drunk on the side of the road, and your grandma picked me up last night." The woman stood up, stretched, revealing red marks all over her body. "But the 2 guys in your family are just useless." I was asleep through the foreplay, and after just a few times when I woke up, both of them were already done. I covered my mouth in shock and asked, "Wait, how are you so calm? Shouldn't you be calling the police?" The woman smiled, a strange expression crossing her face. "Your brother is quite handsome, only 18, and your dad still got it. Though I'm not really into older guys, but hey, since we're already here, given my situation, I'd say I got the better end of the deal." Before she could finish speaking, Grandma burst out of the kitchen. She was holding a bowl of nourishing tonic soup. She offered it to father and my younger brother. "Useless. Drink it now and try again." I covered my head and took a step back. Grandma is absolutely incredible. Father and younger brother seemed to regain their energy from the stimulation. The younger brother pointed at his grandmother and shrieked, "Have you lost your mind?" He tried to rush forward, but his legs gave way and he collapsed to the floor. As he braced himself on the floor, his hand brushed against a medicine bottle under the sofa. The words on the label stabbed into his eyes like needles. It dawned on him. Grandma had been drugging them with multiple medications. They've already used all the sleeping pills they bought earlier. The younger brother struggled to get up to hit Grandma, but she dodged him. Grandma glared at the 2 of them furiously. You think I'm crazy. I'm doing this for your own good, for the family." She pointed at her father's face and yelled, "You good for nothing. If I hadn't kept an eye out, and Tristan's lineage had ended, how could you ever face our ancestors?" Her father clutched his chest, gasping for breath, too furious to speak. 12. See what happened. I told you so. You should have listened to me. If you'd just listened to me and had children like you were supposed to, would I have had to go this far? My brother struggled to his feet, weakly pointing at the woman as he said, "Grandma, you don't even know who she is. What if she's got some disease? So what if she does?" Grandma cut him off, her eyes gleaming intensely. "As long as she can bear children." Remember Urju's wife in the village? She was a bit off her rocker too, and still managed to deliver 3 healthy boys. She suddenly leaned closer to her younger brother and lowered her voice. "I gave her money. Enough for nutritional supplements. The baby will definitely be strong and healthy." The woman burst into laughter upon overhearing the exchange between her brother and grandmother. She pulled a folded paper from her pocket and tossed it onto the coffee table. The words "HIV antibody positive" on the diagnosis report burned like a red-hot iron, startling her father and brother into leaping up with prairie dog-like shrieks. The woman laughed even more gleefully. "See it clearly now. I got drunk out of despair after the diagnosis. Never thought I'd get to experience this before dying. Might as well take 2 others with me on the way out." "Perfect." The woman licked her lips, her gaze fixed intently on her brother's face. His face instantly paled, and he staggered backward before collapsing to the floor. "What illness?" The grandmother snatched the diagnosis report and spent a long time looking at it upside down. Finally, she turned to the woman. "Whether it's AIDS or not doesn't matter. Can you have children? That's all that counts." The woman was taken aback by the grandmother's train of thought and nodded blankly. Granny slapped her thigh and declared, "As long as she can bear a child, that's all that matters. Tristan won't last long anyway. I'll raise the kid myself." The woman glanced at her brother slumped on the floor, and her mood suddenly lifted. No comparison, no heartache. She tossed her hair, raised an eyebrow, pulled a pack of cigarettes from her pocket, and lit one, glancing at my brother through the haze. "The old lady's being straightforward, and honestly I've got nothing else going on. The young guy is quite handsome. I wouldn't mind coming back a few more times." "Shut your mouth." My brother suddenly let out a piercing scream. "I refuse. I don't want children." Father clutched his chest as he crouched on the ground, emitting stifled sobs. He recalled the words his wife had whispered while clutching his hand on her deathbed. "Don't let mother come. She'll destroy this family." Back then, he'd simply thought it was just tension between his wife and her mother-in-law. Now he truly regretted it, deeply and bitterly. The father clutched his head and wailed, "I must be out of my mind. I had a perfectly good life, yet I insisted on bringing her here. What in God's name was I thinking?" The woman blew a smoke ring, crushed her cigarette, and rose to her feet. "All right, I'll stop teasing you now. I've got things to take care of. I'll come hang out with you all in a few days." As she reached the door, she suddenly turned back and winked at her younger brother. "By the way, take the blocking medication right away. There might still be a chance." The door slammed shut. I glanced at the situation in the living room. Grandma was still muttering about finding another girl. My brother and father scrambled to their feet in a panic, getting ready to go to the hospital. After returning from the hospital, father and younger brother moved like soulless puppets. The doctor said the PEP medication must be taken consistently for 28 days. Under the shadow of HIV terror, my brother gradually lost his mind. The first casualty was Grandma's fertility goddess statue. One afternoon, my younger brother suddenly rushed over to the guanine statue, grabbed it, and smashed it without warning. When Grandma found the shattered statue on the floor, she didn't cry or make a scene. Instead, she smiled. "Good that it broke. Good. This means it's almost done." Grandma started working even harder to set my brother up on dates. But during one meeting, he abruptly pulled out a box of prep. The neighbor usually just grabs their bag and storms off, but not before cursing Grandma for being a nuisance. Grandma stood by the door, hopping mad with anxiety. In the dead of night, my younger brother grabbed a kitchen knife and went to have a heart-to-heart with Grandma. "Grandma, why do you have to live so long?" His voice was calm. "Don't you know that old people living too long is a curse?" Grandma shrank back against the headboard in fear, but still retorted defiantly, "What did you say? Me being alive is my good fortune, something you clearly lack. If we don't hurry, we won't even be able to save the child." My brother suddenly smiled, and after that, every night he would go to our grandmother's bedside right on time and just stare at her. In the end, it was our father who pulled him out of the room. In the middle of the night, I overheard my father talking with my brother on the balcony. My brother seemed really worked up, and every now and then, you could hear him sobbing. "Dad, what should I do? I want to kill her right now." "You can't do that. You're too young. You'll go to jail for murder. After all, she is your grandmother." The father patted his son on the shoulder, his gaze drifting into the distance. You need to be strong, you have to study hard and get out of this place, or your life will be ruined. I'm old, it doesn't matter if I go through some hardship, but you're still young, with a whole future ahead of you. Keep pushing, keep going, and keep at it until the college entrance exams. Once you get out, don't look back. Hearing those words, I couldn't shake the feeling that they sounded all too familiar. From that day on, my younger brother threw himself completely into his studies. Grandma noticed that he wasn't taking the initiative and had no interest in arranged meetings. She then set her sights on girls from the countryside. That day, she came running back all excited and grabbed my hand. Ivy, your grandmother has found you a good family. They said they'd give a 500,000 yuan bride price if you're willing to marry. She laughed, slapping her thigh, her eyes sparkling with excitement. With this money, we can find Tristan a wife. There will surely be families willing. In the living room, father paused what he was doing but didn't look up when he heard this. I smiled at grandma and said, all right, if dad has no objections, I agree. After speaking, I turned to look at my father. My father pretended not to hear, wanting me to face grandma on my own, and stood up to leave. I grabbed my father's hand and repeated, Dad, grandma wants to trade me for a 500,000 betrothal gift. My father didn't dare look at me, mumbling, your grandmother is doing this for the family, so you agree, is that it? I stared into my father's eyes, and grandma was watching him too. Why are you still unwilling? Even though Ivy is your daughter, we must think of your son, 500,000. And let's not call it selling or trading, that sounds so crude. It should be called marrying her off. Father rubbed his hands together, his expression conflicted, but in the end, he gave in. Ivy, just bear with it. After all, grandma is your elder, she wouldn't do anything to harm you. Just get married already. Don't upset grandma. Be a good, dutiful granddaughter. I looked at my father's face and suddenly laughed. All right, I'll marry. I'll be the obedient one. Grandma paused, clearly not expecting me to agree so readily, then broke into an even wider grin. That's more like it. At least my granddaughter listens. Look at the rest of you. I told you to get married, and none of you would. Father hung his head and didn't say another word. They thought grandma would focus her attention on me and stop tormenting my younger brother, to let my brother take the college entrance exams smoothly and leave home. But how could that be possible? Grandma was deeply displeased about my brother taking the exams. She thinks boys reading so much is really getting in the way of her holding a great-grandchild. In her own words, these young folks today read too much, get restless, and stop thinking about settling down and having kids, and then they complain about the environment being tough. That's all nonsense. We had it just as hard back in our day, and we still had children. If we let my younger brother take the college entrance exam now, what if he ends up applying to a university in another province? What if he never comes back home? Just like how dad moved to the city to marry mom back in the day, she rarely gets to see her grandson. Now my brother wants to leave too. Absolutely not. To keep him from running away, the next day, grandma had me bundle up my brother's textbooks and workbooks into stacks. She was going to sell them for scrap. My younger brother saw it and rushed over in a panic. Those are my books, the ones I need for my college entrance exams. Do you have any idea how important these books are to me? Could anything be more important than having a baby? Grandma continued tidying the other books impatiently. Your father was just a high school graduate back then, but he still got married and had you, didn't he? For a man, carrying on the family line is what matters most. Father came home from work and witnessed this scene. His face instantly darkening like the bottom of a pot, he grabbed his grandmother's arm, his voice trembling. Mom, Tristan is about to take the college entrance exam. You can't just stop him from getting an education. If he doesn't study, what about his future? Grandma shook off his hand and spat in disgust. Future? Are you really going to turn him into a bookworm and cut off our family line just to satisfy your own wishes? His future should be about getting married and starting a family. Mom, not getting an education is really not an option, Dad said, his forehead beaded with sweat. You're ruining his life. I'm ruining him. I'm saving him, Grandma retorted defiantly. I stood by watching the two of them argue, their faces flushed with anger. It all felt so familiar. My father turned and saw me standing at the door, suddenly raising his voice. Ivy, why didn't you stop them when you saw what was happening? You even helped her move the books. Are you also hoping your brother fails his exams? I looked at my anxious father and desperate younger brother, my voice calm. 13, Dad, doesn't this feel familiar? Father paused for a moment. When I was a kid, Grandma didn't want me to go to school. Mom was just like you are now. How did you react back then? Isn't it the same as what I'm doing? I looked up at him and said, back then, weren't you the one who told Mom to give in to Grandma? Have you ever stopped to think how heartbroken my mother must have been at that time? You wouldn't help him. It was only when Mom threatened to divorce you that the two of you finally moved out. My father's lips parted, but no words came out. I continued, when Grandma visited last time, you told me to be filial to her. You said I should listen to Grandma. You've never once remembered what Grandma did to me. Why is it that when it comes to my brother, he doesn't have to show filial respect to Grandma, he gets to disobey her? I looked at my father. His face had turned pale. Dad, I've learned to be filial to Grandma. Shouldn't you be happy about that? And you call yourself a devoted son, yet you made Grandma angry. How unfilial. Shouldn't you be helping Grandma right now? Father couldn't take it anymore. He turned away and crouched on the ground, no longer trying to stop Grandma. Grandma pushed Father aside and continued gathering the books. Little brother looked at the soiled textbook and broke down crying. After Grandma sold all of my younger brother's textbooks, he was absolutely furious and completely broke down. My father didn't dare to defy Grandma, so he could only tell my brother to just bear with it. A few days later, that woman we'd seen before suddenly showed up again. She slammed an ultrasound report on the coffee table and said, "Old lady, I'm pregnant. You're responsible for this, aren't you?" Grandma was overjoyed, nearly bowing to the woman right then and there. The woman's name was Luna. She ended up staying at our house from that day on. My father tried to stop her, but Grandma smacked him on the back. "Don't you dare lay a finger on my great-grandson." That evening, Grandma took my younger brother and father aside and asked the girl who she wanted to sleep with. The girl naturally headed straight for my brother's bedroom. My brother saw Luna sprawled out casually on the bed and reached out to pull her away. Grandma saw this and lunged forward, clutching my brother's arm in a death grip. Her nails dug into his flesh as she cried, "What do you think you're doing? She's your wife, for heaven's sake." My brother's face flushed crimson, his hand frozen midair, voice trembling. "Since when was she ever my wife? How dare you claim the child is mine? If she's not your wife, she's still your mother. If he's not your son, he's still your brother. Either way, you're responsible." Grandma gave my brother a hard shove, sending him stumbling backward into the wardrobe. "Carrying my great-grandson makes her the family's pride and joy. If you dare treat her poorly, I'll break your legs." Luna leaned over the headboard, twirling her hair with a laugh. "The old lady's right. I'm the top priority now." She patted the edge of the bed and raised an eyebrow at her brother. "Come here. Didn't you have a great time with your sister the other day? You're so young. Your sister would be more than happy to." The younger brother clenched his fists, his whole body trembling. Seeing that his grandmother was still pulling at him, the younger brother threw a punch at her. Grandma was knocked to the ground. The younger brother tried to keep hitting her, but their father stopped him. Seeing that Grandma was hurt, the father slapped his son hard across the face. "She's your grandmother, you ungrateful brat. No matter what, you don't hit her." The beating jolted my brother back to his senses. He looked at our father, his voice trembling with hurt. "Dad, she's treating me like this. Aren't you going to do something about her?" Father turned away, caught between his aggrieved son and our furious grandmother, and finally managed to utter, "Tristan, listen to your grandma. Just bear with it for now." Grandma came to her senses, got up from the ground, and snorted coldly. "See, even your father knows to respect his elders. Your mother really didn't raise you right." Hearing Grandma say that made me a little upset. "Grandma, just shut up already. My mom's great. She just has terrible taste." If only her taste was the opposite of my brother's conscience. My brother stayed silent, and Grandma shot me a suspicious look. I chuckled and tipped Grandma's arm. "Let's go." "Grandma, the lovebirds need some privacy. You're not planning to watch, are you?" Grandma nodded. "You're right." Dad was also pulled along by Grandma as we left. He glanced back at his brother one last time before gently closing the door. In the end, my younger brother ended up sleeping on the sofa. Ever since Luna came to our home, Grandma has been treating her like royalty. Luna mentioned she was craving pork ribs, so Grandma rushed to the market first thing the next morning. She made sure to buy the freshest ribs, straight from the butcher, to cook for her. Luna wanted new clothes, and Grandma immediately bought her over a dozen outfits. Even when Luna said she was thirsty in the middle of the night, Grandma would bring her warm water from the kitchen. Though she was very busy, Grandma was exceptionally happy. Her eyes and heart were fixed only on Luna's belly, as if it held her very life. My brother watched as Grandma treated Luna like royalty. While he ended up getting the same raw deal as me, not only did he have to wait on Grandma hand and foot, but he had to cater to Luna too. Even his college entrance exams became a distant dream. The light in his eyes slowly faded away. Later, he secretly packed a bag in the middle of the night and ran off, vanishing without a trace. When Grandma found out, she patted her thigh in dismay and immediately exclaimed, "Why did my grandson run away? What if this baby isn't a boy?" But she quickly regained her composure, reasoning that there was still his father to rely on. After the boy left, Father seemed to age several years almost overnight, becoming even more withdrawn, yet the household was surprisingly harmonious. Grandma became incredibly busy because of the baby in Luna's womb. Aside from tending to Luna and chatting with her, Grandma spent all her time reading up on how to ensure a healthy pregnancy. She even used a school notebook for her notes. her handwriting all scrawly and uneven. Luna is allergic to fish and carrots, so she can't eat them. Luna loves pork rib soup, but she's not a fan of sweet and sour ribs. Luna has to drink milk at night and hates taking medicine because it tastes bitter. She has trouble sleeping. At first, Luna found it amusing and couldn't stop laughing while holding her grandma's notes. Then she suddenly murmured with a bitter smile, "Why, even my own mother never did this for me. You're the first person who actually cares about my preferences, knows my allergies, and goes out of your way to cook my favorite dishes." As time went by, Luna and I gradually started having proper conversations. She was sold by her parents to her husband. Her husband was abusive, alcoholic, and gambled. When he ran out of money, he forced her into prostitution. Over time, she fell ill. On the day her grandmother took her back in, she had finally saved enough money to go to the hospital. Without money, she couldn't go on living. I was going to drink myself to death, figured it'd hurt less that way, but then my grandmother found me and brought me home. For months later, Grandma started making arrangements for my wedding. After all, she needed to get ready for her great-grandchild. Luna came to me with concern written all over her face. "Are you really going to get married?" I shook my head. "My desire to get married is about as likely as you being pregnant." Luna raised an eyebrow and gave a knowing smile. "Honestly, your grandmother has been really kind to me. It's the first time I've ever felt so cared for." There was a hint of guilt in her eyes, so I cut her off. "She's only doing this for the baby you're carrying, so don't feel guilty. We're all the same." I fished out a fruit candy from my pocket and handed it to her. "Try it, my wedding candy, a little happiness to share with you." She put the candy in her mouth, nodded, and said nothing. I knew her illness had gotten very serious, especially for someone like her. I wouldn't go to the hospital unless the pain was unbearable. 5 days before my wedding, Luna suddenly vanished without a trace. She left, but not before leaving a note for Grandma. 14. The pregnancy was a lie. "Thank you for taking care of me these past few days." Grandma collapsed on the floor and wept all day, finally wiping her tears as she looked at me. "Ivy, the bride price can't fall through. You must marry him tomorrow. I need to get your father a wife." I looked at her deranged state, smiled, and nodded. That very night, I ran away too, leaving behind a note. "So much for filial piety. Goodbye, you old hag." Grandma was completely dumbfounded. I became a moderately successful blogger by sharing stories about my family. I even managed to save up a decent amount of money. This money is enough for me to settle down in another city. Even without money, it doesn't matter. My mother raised me well, so I can start from scratch. I'd rather work in a factory than have my entire life arranged for me like my grandmother. Sold off, only to sell my daughter and granddaughter in turn, just to gain others' approval. After I left, the neighbor's older sister made sure to update me on what happened next. Turns out she's a fan of mine too, according to her. After I called off the wedding, the groom's family made a huge scene at our house. His mother spent the entire morning yelling at my grandmother. Not to be outdone, Grandma threw herself onto the ground, kicked her legs out, and began wailing while slapping her thighs. Her cries were a full octave higher than the mother-in-law's shouting. The mother-in-law, pinned down by Grandma's grip, was flushed with rage but unable to break free, yet she dared not lay a hand on her, fearing Grandma would fake an injury to extort her. In the end, the groom's family had no choice but to leave, grumbling and cursing under their breath, afraid that the situation would escalate and bring them shame. As they walked away, they threw back a threat: "Your family will get what's coming to you someday." Grandma watched them go, then quickly picked herself up off the ground. She snorted coldly. "It's your family that'll get what's coming to you. No one would marry your good-for-nothing son even if you paid them." After saying that, Grandma saw the curious neighbors out and slammed the door shut with a bang. The betrothal money was gone, but Grandma still wouldn't give up. She kept pressuring my father to go on blind dates every single day. Every time he returned from a matchmaking session, he'd hide on the balcony to smoke. The neighbor's older sister mentioned she often saw my dad coming home late at night just to avoid Grandma. Later on, I got a call from the hospital. Grandma fell ill, and my father passed away. My father was nearly driven mad by Grandma, but when he saw her collapse, he rushed her to the hospital. The doctor said she didn't have long to live and told her to eat whatever she wanted. He was overjoyed. He couldn't stop grinning from ear to ear. He was jumping and laughing, shouting and yelling in the hallway. He was like a monkey that had been trapped for 500 years and just set free. He laughed harder and harder until he was too weak to stand, crouching on the ground. The nurse nearby thought he was having a breakdown and tried to calm him down. Then he suddenly stood up, only to collapse straight back down and was gone. The doctor said it was a heart attack triggered by long-term depression and extreme excitement after getting home. I went to see my grandmother first. After all, it's not right to make relatives come to 2 funerals. No, make that 3. These past few days, I've received news not only of my father's death, but also my brother's. When I visited my grandmother in the hospital, she was lying in bed, her eyes clouded as she stared at the ceiling. "Grandma," I walked over and sat by the bed, placing the death certificates for my father and younger brother in front of her. "What are we going to do?" Both my brother and father are gone. You might not have a great-grandchild after all. Her eyes flickered, as if trying to make out the words on the paper. After a moment, she suddenly reached out with her bony hand and grabbed my wrist. I pulled my hand away and laughed, my tone dripping with sarcasm. I said, "Dad and my brother are both dead. Your precious bloodline you've been dreaming of is finished." Haha, with a grotesque expression. Grandma struggled to sit up from her bed as if experiencing a final surge of vitality, yanking the 4-tube with a violent rattle. "Impossible. This can't be happening. How could they die? It's all your mother's fault. She's the one to blame. I never should have let my son marry that ill-fated woman. It's all her fault. Even now that she's dead, she's still causing trouble for my son from beyond the grave." Hearing Grandma say this, my face darkened. "Grandma, you're truly unrepentant. You think Dad loved you. The doctor said he was so thrilled to hear you were on death's door that he danced in the hospital hallway and dropped dead. You're the curse, the one who got Dad and my brother killed. That's a lie." Grandma's lips trembled, her face ashen. She grabbed the water glass from the nightstand and hurled it at me, but I saw it coming and sidestepped out of the way. Then she continued, speaking slowly and deliberately. "Are you happy now, Grandma? You care so much about the family bloodline, and now I'm the only one left, a girl who can't carry on the name. You must be furious. I forgot to tell you. I'm going to change my last name to my mother's surname." "How dare you?" Grandma shrieked at my words. "How could you dare? No child takes their mother's surname. It's disgraceful." "Of course there is," I said with a smile, watching my frantic grandmother as I enunciated each word clearly. "You may not acknowledge me as part of this family, but the law does. All of Father's estate will be mine someday. It's all because I'm a girl who took my mother's surname." Grandma's pupils contracted sharply, as if infuriated by those words. I leaned closer and deliberately provoked her further. "Didn't you always say that without a male heir to carry on the family line, our ancestors would curse you to your grave? Don't worry. Not only are there no descendants left now, but no one will ever visit your grave again. I'll dig it up myself when I get back. I've sold off the land too, and I'm done with this house. It's not like I ever measured up to your family's standards anyway, right?" Grandma started coughing violently at my words, her hands gripping the bedsheet like a vice. Her mouth fell open one last time, her head tilted, and she collapsed backward. The monitor let out a piercing, continuous alarm as the red line flattened into a straight trace. Before the nurses could even rush in, she was gone. When she died, Grandma's eyes were still open. She must have died with regrets. I looked at my grandmother's face, feeling completely numb inside. At the funerals of my grandmother, younger brother, and father, the relatives sighed one by one. Such a young life, gone too soon. What a pity he didn't leave an heir. Indeed, this family has no male descendants left. The lineage ends here. Well, since there's no one left in his family, I'm going to ask the village chief for his land. It shouldn't just go to that girl, right? Why should it go to you? Back when Malcolm was around, my family was just as close to him as yours. I heard them talking but didn't argue back. I just walked over, pulled a small notebook out of my bag, and opened it to the first page. "Uncles, this is the ledger my late grandmother kept. Take a look. Time to settle your debts. And don't forget the customary gift money. You only gave one share." "That's not right. Are you grown men really going to gang up on a defenseless woman like me? Seriously, that's just embarrassing to even mention." The relatives turned pale, then flushed, exchanging glances as they were about to criticize me. I quickly turned to second uncle and said, "Uncle, isn't your kid preparing for the civil service exam? This kind of thing. It's just asking for trouble if people make a scene." My second uncle stared at me, then reluctantly pulled out a wad of cash from his bag and handed it over. The other relatives quickly followed suit, pooling their money together, their hands trembling as they handed it over. I counted the money, stuffed it into my bag, and bowed to them. As expected, "Uncles, you men really come through when it counts. Thank you." 15. With that, I turned and walked away, hearing the sound of third uncle being scolded by third aunt as she twisted his ear. "It's all because you couldn't keep your mouth shut. If you hadn't said anything, she wouldn't have asked, would she? This money could have bought so many things, but you just had to save face. It's infuriating." The money in the bag felt heavy with its weight. I buried my father, younger brother, and grandmother together. I wonder if they'll argue in the afterlife. The thought of my grandmother nagging me about marriage in the underworld almost made me laugh. In my past life, my father's blind filial piety was my undoing, and he never even noticed. This time, it's landed right on their own doorstep. They've truly brought this upon themselves.